Hey, how is everybody doing? We are live, ladies and gentlemen. At least we should be live right now. Are we live? We are live. Tony,
am I here?
Yes, you're here. I'm here. They are here. Everybody was waiting. Patiently waiting. See, we have the best viewers and fans in the world because they were waiting patiently. They knew that, we would come through like we always do. It happens. These things happen. First of all, when Tony and I connected, Tony couldn't hear me. So we had to work that out because I didn't want to go live with, if he can't hear me, but I can hear him, it's going to be a pretty one-sided conversation. So we had to figure that out. And then when we figured that out, we were ready to go live. And as soon as I hit this button over here to go live, Tony suddenly became a big red question mark. And it was like, what happened? I don't know what happened. And then it wasn't going live and something, it was really fucking weird. But these things happen. The good news is here we are. Tony Michael, Dave McCrae, episode 27 of Two Dudes and Some Bullshit here on this Sunday, June the 16th, 2019. And ladies and gentlemen, the Toronto Raptors are 2019 NBA champions. Now I know what you're going to say. Yeah, but Dave, Golden State didn't have all their best players. That's true, they didn't. And would Golden State have won if they had all their players at full strength? The probability says yes. Maybe not. You never know. But yes, obviously, that certainly would have, given them probably an advantage. But these things happen in sports. As you've heard probably ad nauseum, Golden State, their championship in 2015 against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Cleveland had a couple of their best guys down as well. So these things happen in sports. It was, you have to play with the hands that you are dealt and the players that you are dealt and the situation that you were dealt, and give it to Golden State. I mean, despite the fact that they were down Kevin Durant, and despite the fact that Klay Thompson was not at 100%, and of course he left the final game 3/4 of the way through with a torn ACL, they played their hearts out.
They did. It's not like they folded. They could have easily folded.
No, it was still a tough match. And we can say, but maybe this, maybe that, maybe this, but you can't cherry pick those things. If you are somebody that's going to say, well, yeah, but Toronto, and you're a Golden State fan, well, then you got to say that about some of Golden State's championships and some of the championships that many teams in many different sports have won over the years. It happens. Nonetheless, they are 2019 NBA champions, and tomorrow is the parade here in Toronto, and they're estimating over 2 million people are going to be on this.
Nice. Hey, man, shit. It's been since early 90s since the last time Toronto's had anything to celebrate.
Yes, that's right. And that was also in 1993. The Montreal Canadiens won the Stanley Cup that year. So that was also the last year that any Canadian team and any of the big four sports leagues has won a championship. Not the last time that I think the Edmonton Oilers and the Calgary Flames, I think, had been in a couple of Stanley Cup finals since then. But it was the last time that a Canadian team won. Yeah, it was 1993. So for the Raptors to be NBA champs, it was pretty awesome. Oh, it would have been nicer if it had been won on home court. And it also would have been nicer if the fucking refs didn't blow a foul with 0.9, talk about taking the wind out of their sails. Like just let it go. I mean, just let that foul go. There's 0.9 seconds left, and it's not a foul on Kawhi. It was a foul on the other guy. So it's like, well, just let it go. It's not going to make a difference. It's like they just wanted to get one more thing in there. Hang on a sec now. Hang on. Anyway, they're champs.
Well, to quote Vin Diesel in Fast and Furious, ask any real racer. Doesn't matter if you win by an inch or win by a mile. Winning is winning. When people talk about, the Golden State wasn't, nothing,
No, it happens because
winning is winning, period. That's it.
That's it. And when you look at the 2015 Warriors. I mean, I believe the Cavaliers were without Kevin Love. They were without Irving guy, that Irving guy, and those are some of the best players. You can't cherry pick, and it's happened all throughout sports. I mean, a win is a win, and it's not the Raptors' problem that they were healthier. It's that they had to play against who they were playing against, and through those and let's not forget that Klay Thompson played in game 1 and he played in game 4. Now I know he wasn't 100%, but the Raptors still won both of those games. Yep. So I mean,
it was a great finals. I enjoyed watching the last couple of games. I watched the last 2. I didn't watch the whole series, but I thought you guys might get it at home the other night, so I was watching that. And that was a great game. I mean, look, you guys had played well. Golden State played well. They forced it to a game 6. And again, hats off to Golden State for not caving in. They could have easily
100%
just said, "Fuck this, man. Give it to you guys." But they didn't. They played their hearts out, and you were close to going to a game 7. For a moment there, I thought you were going. I thought we were going to have to postpone this shit tonight because it'd be a game 7.
I know, and I was like, "Oh, come on! I don't want to go to a game 7." I mean, as much as I would love for Toronto to win it at home, I think to myself, I think the risk is too high, because now if they had gone to a game 7 without Durant and without Klay, well, maybe I'm feeling a bit better, right? But if Klay and Thompson left game 6 2 or 3 minutes in the third quarter, he already had 30 points. I mean, the dude probably was going to leave with 45 points in that game, right? So, I mean, I was a little, let's wrap it up now, boys. And thankfully, they did. But yeah, I mean,
we're having a great 2019 year in sports, with Toronto winning the NBA Finals, Patriots winning the Super Bowl earlier this year.
Again!
Hey, doesn't matter. We're having a good year in sports.
Yes, you and I are. Okay, and also what's cool too is that the Maple Leafs, poor Maple Leafs, at least they're a better team now, so they're on the verge of something potentially. They last won the Stanley Cup in 1967. 26 years later, the Blue Jays win the World Series. 26 years later, the Raptors win the NBA championship.
Interesting.
And all of those...
Creepy interesting.
Yes, and all of those wins came in game 6.
I thought Joe Carter was a game 7 walk-off. That was a game 6?
I think it was a game 6, yeah.
It's been a minute since I've watched highlights of that game, but you're probably right.
Yeah.
So
anyway, so this is an all Q&A show. Now, before Tony and I get to the Q&A, though, we want to briefly touch on 2 things.
The Doctor's week this week.
Yeah, the Doctor Sleep trailer dropped, and Blumhouse announced that they are remaking Black Christmas again. And like I said in my video, I don't mean that they're remaking it again, but Black Christmas is getting another remake, this time from Blumhouse, because there was a remake in 2006, which I thought was dog shit. But anyway, so
politely.
Yeah, so let's talk about Dr. Sleep. So what did you think of the trailer to Dr. Sleep, Tony, being the huge Kubrick fan that you are?
And you got to admit, the guys who, and of course it's a trailer, and a trailer is supposed to design to get you excited, to go, oh, look at the little things they're doing. And if you are a film addict, and if you are a Kubrick fan, some of the shot sequences that they filmed, there's little subtleties of Kubrick. You could feel it in the trailer cut. Put a smile on my face, but then I kind of brought it back because I am actually in the process. I bought the book, and I'm in the middle of now reading the book, because I want to read it before going to see the film here in November. And so it's hard to say. I mean, look, I love Ewan McGregor. I mean, I think most of us do. But when I started reading the comment sections on the trailer online, it's funny how everybody thought the same shit. In that first opening scene, you see Ewan sitting there and you see the word hello, and everyone's like, Obi-Wan. Literally, everybody just went to Obi-Wan. My mind went there, hello there.
I gotta say, I actually didn't think of that.
Really?
I didn't. I was more just focused on, this is the Dr. Sleep trailer.
Right. And this. Exactly.
Yeah. And okay. So, because look, we all know that the movie The Shining is very different from the book. We know that. And we know that King is not a big fan of what Kubrick did and the different sort of layers that Kubrick added. And that film has got to be, you know, one of the most analyzed, dissected films of all time. And I've done it as well. And there's so many different layers that Kubrick has, not just to The Shining, but to his filmmaking in general, that there are many ways to interpret that movie. It is very different from the book. Now, when it comes to Dr. Sleep, what I suspect is going to happen is, from what I understand, is that the director is trying to find a happy medium between the book and the Shining book and the Shining movie. And he doesn't want to piss off King and do a direct sequel to the Shining movie, but he doesn't want to piss off Shining movie fans and do a direct sequel to the book only. So I suspect what he's going to do is the stuff that's going to be canon in Dr. Sleep from the Shining movie are things that are also in the Shining book, because there are things that are in the film that are also in the book. And I think he's going to take those things, you know, and put them in the Dr. Sleep movie. Now, that doesn't mean that he won't, maybe there's a couple little things perhaps that maybe he wants to utilize that were not in the Shining book, but I think by and large he's going to try and walk that line. And I don't know, Tony, do you see it the same way at all? Or
pretty much, yeah, because everybody had messaged me on Instagram and was like, dude, did you feel like watching like a Kubrick, you know, trailer? I'm like, all right, like, yeah, because I saw what they did. Now, does it mean that the whole movie is going to be filmed like the way Kubrick filmed The Shining? I don't think so. I think there might be certain scenes as we as fans are going to be watching it, and the diehard Kubrick fans that know Kubrick's way of filmmaking might go, I see what you did there. That style of filmmaking is tough. It is very tough. You listen to a lot of actors who've worked with him, and they will tell you he will take 90, 100, 150 takes, and he will drive an actor to a point of insanity to get the cut that he specifically wants. So I don't think the whole film is going to be shot in the, like, almost like a direct, like you said, a direct sequel to The Shining, where it's going to feel like it's Stanley Kubrick directing the movie. I don't think it's going to be that. I think this director is going to put his own flavor on it and his own stamp, with maybe some subtlety, little winks and little nods to how he frames a shot and executes a scene that might remind us, like, oh, okay, I see. Especially the hardcore film fans might go, I see what you did there. And I agree with you. I think he's gonna find that happy medium. Don't piss off King. Keep the fans happy.
Right. Yeah. And I think you're right. And, you know, The Shining is one of my favorite psychological horror films of all time. So when I watched the trailer to Dr. Sleep, you know, I'm, you know, a lot of people want to know my thoughts, and my thoughts are, you know, it looks interesting, yep. But I'm not getting overly excited or overly pessimistic because, you know, I understand that The Shining is different from the book, but the layers that Kubrick adds to it, there's a lot to discover in that movie. And a lot of things in there that I know there's some conspiracy theories as well, but there's some also things in there that are more sort of grounded, that are very interesting to dissect. So when you can't just do a sequel to The Shining. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's extremely difficult to do, which is why I'm like, well, the movie looks interesting, but there's nothing necessarily that I see about it that makes me, other than the shot, which I mean, I tip my hat to the filmmakers who have recreated the quick clips that we saw from the original Shining.
Oh yeah, Danny on
that. That's not actual footage from The Shining. They actually reshot all that. Now, if you know what to look for, you can tell, but it's done well enough that you buy it. Like, it's very well done. So that's cool. But it at the moment it looks like an interesting supernatural sort of movie, but whether I'm going to think it's a worthy sequel to The Shining, I don't know, which again comes your point, and the point, you know, that we've been making is to, you know, sort of not get anybody's knickers in a twist, as they say across the pond. They may try to walk that fine line, which is a difficult thing to do.
Very difficult.
You know, you can't please everybody. So I'm cautiously optimistic. I can't just go, yeah, it looks amazing. I can't, because this is a sequel to one of arguably the greatest psychological horror films in history. Right. So, you know, it's a movie that didn't need a sequel. I understand that King wrote the book, but it's like, I'm a little trepidatious here, you know. So we'll see. It looks interesting, you know, but we'll see. I'm cautiously optimistic. I take that fucking shit seriously. So that's how I feel about that. I don't really have a feeling on it yet. I'm not sure yet. I'm not sure how to feel yet. So I don't know.
No, I'm with you, and like I said, you know, when you start throwing out the name Stanley Kubrick in the conversation and whatnot, you're talking like, you know, one of the best of the best as when it comes to filmmaking. So to already, you know, sit there and go, oh, this guy's going to do it just like Kubrick did. Like you said, it's a little premature to say that. I'm not saying that he can't, shoot certain scenes that will make it feel like Kubrick, but I don't want people to, you know, just because they see a trailer, automatically think like it's going to feel like watching a Kubrick movie when you go in there. Right. I think you might be disappointing yourself when you go in there because, you know, Kubrick is Kubrick and there's never going to ever be another one, you know, like him. So, you know, it's very similar into, you know, good segue into how I feel with regards to Black Christmas. You know,
great segue.
I watched your video this week, and you pretty much everything you said is pretty much what I was thinking. You know, when I read the synopsis, you know, and I know the hardcore horror fans, you know, quickly went to the whole SJW thing, and you know, we're in this whole era of, you know, strong women and all that stuff. But I got to remind people, the heroine is nothing new in horror films. That's the bread and butter of the horror industry, you know, from Jamie Lee to Heather Langenkamp to, you know, Amy Steele to Olivia Hussey, you know, in the first Black Christmas. You always will have a strong
Neve Campbell,
you know, you will always have a strong female lead in a slasher film. That has been the makeup since the dawn of time with slasher films. So, you know, that's why I'm not too jumpy on, like, you know, the synopsis that Blumhouse released this week with it, you know, empowering women or something was the phrase. I can't remember now.
Something like that. Something like that,
yeah. You know, whatever. Well, to that.
And the thing is, like, in that, I mean, Black Christmas, the original from 1974, is one of my favorite horror movies of all time. And, you know, when I read the synopsis to the remake, it's not that I don't think you could remake that movie and give it, do it justice. I think you can. But when I read the synopsis, I knew instantly when I read it that a lot of people would start to interpret the last sentence in there as a social justice warrior, feminism, girl power kind of thing. And I wanted to remind people that, you know, okay, if you want to think that, you're allowed to. I have no evidence that is why they're doing it, but I have no evidence to say that that's not why they're doing it. So the reason why I tackled it from the angle that I tackled it from was because I wanted a solid, tight, you know, lid on, no air escaping. Because if somebody were to say, well, no, it's not about girl power and social justice and blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, what about this? Because you can't deny this part of it. And that's the part that I wanted to focus on. The social justice thing you can always deny, but you can't, it's not easily as you can't easily overlook the important point that I was making, which was Black Christmas was not about anybody rising up to begin with at all. It wasn't about redemption. It wasn't about, you know, women overtaking a man, and it had nothing to do with a woman or a man or anything like that. It just wasn't the story that they were telling. Because for those of you that don't know, or maybe have not seen it in a long time, Black Christmas doesn't end on a positive note. It ends very eerie and unsettling, and it just kind of, and you're like, oh shit, that sucks, you know, and it wasn't about any sort of redemption and rise up. It wasn't like Lori or Heather or you know, Nancy or even, you know, Sydney Prescott. It wasn't about that. There wasn't that arc there. It was, you weren't supposed to know who the killer was. You weren't supposed to know what he was doing, You didn't know his name other than the fact that he was like, Billy, you know, and all that kind of shit. But it's not like you, and it ends with you knowing nothing. Literally nothing. And it doesn't end on a positive note. You know, there was really no big redemption moment really at the end of the day because of how it ends. So when I read the line of, you know, it's going to show that this generation of women, and does it seem a little pretentious and social? You know, yes, it does. But I didn't want to focus on that. I want to say, oh, okay, but what about the fact that you're missing the whole point? Like, is it then Black Christmas? If you remove that element, and we're not even sure, like the point I made in the video, whether or not they're going to utilize the telephone call, you know, crank call sort of shtick, because today in 2019, that's a harder shtick to get people to buy into because nobody's talking on the phone anymore and nobody's calling each other like that.
Set in 2019?
They haven't, but there's nothing for us to believe that it's not going to be. So if it's not, if you remove that element, and I don't mean you have a scene where you tip your hat to it. I mean, the fundamental foundation of that movie is the urban legend about the man in the house with the babysitter downstairs. That's the premise. That's the foundation. And then, of course, it's not. So if you remove both of these things from the movie, it's not Black Christmas. You can't just make a horror movie, have it take place on a campus around Christmas time, and call it Black Christmas. Then it just becomes like urban legend, and it becomes like Halloween H2O, and it becomes like Sorority Row, and it becomes. I'm not saying those films took place at Christmas, but there's nothing there. It's just like, you know, and yes, I take it seriously because it's one of my favorite horror films, because it has a specific identity. And if you remove the identity, it's not Black Christmas. And then I hear that, you know, Blumhouse, I don't know if they saw my, you know, video or not. Obviously they probably did not. But a few hours later, they made some sort of tweet about how, well, it's a reimagining. It's a new take on Black Christmas. And I'm like, but that's not Black Christmas. It's like, you know, it's like doing a remake of Jaws. It's not a shark, it's an alligator. Well, it's not Jaws. It's not Jaws.
That's true.
You know, and so that's how I feel about it. I'm not saying that it's not going to be good. Maybe it will be. And maybe this new take will be so different, but yet at the same time be so good that we go, you know, that wasn't bad. That was interesting take. I'm open to that, but when I read that last sentence, I'm just like, this doesn't feel like you can't remove those things and call it Black Christmas. I don't know. Do you see it
That's exactly how exact same way. You know, look, they could have come up with something really great, and I'm hoping that they do. And like what you just said there, I want to walk out of that theater going, yeah, it's not the original, but it was good. I had fun with it. You know, and if I can have fun with it, and if they've got a really interesting take on how they're going to execute it, and if it is set in 2019, because everything you said, you know, they can't do the same thing in the 70s if you are setting it in 2019. Because what you said here a few days ago, you know, with technology, I mean, my God, you can track someone down in like 5 minutes. You know, so it's like you can't sell it to the prank call of 2019. Now, if you said it in the 80s or 70s, which they may. We don't know, then okay, you can add that element back in and it becomes believable again. But then it's like, all right, we've seen this, so there is no new take. So I am very curious on Blumhouse's new take on this. And, you know, I think we all have to remember one thing. Blumhouse has a pretty solid track record. You know, not everything they do, you know, we all like, but for the most part, you know, I think most of us would agree that their track record is very reputable, and we can trust that, you know, they're going to do something good for us.
Yeah. I mean, it's look, you know, Blumhouse early on was having a lot of hits, and then they started to produce a lot of movies, and they have some hits and they have some misses, but that's just the nature of the game. I mean, the more movies you produce, the more movies you put out, you're going to have some fucking stinkers. That's what happens. So, but they do have some really good films, and maybe it will be a really good movie, but I worry, like, again, not to sound like a broken record, but for me, Black Christmas has a specific identity to it. And when you remove that identity, it's not Black Christmas to me. It's just another horror movie that you just happen to set at Christmas time. Yeah, you know, but at the same time, like I said in my video, I do understand how implementing the urban legend that was frightening in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s is not so, not that it wouldn't be frightening today, but you know, if you do, like, you know, it's harder to get people to buy into the idea of somebody home alone, your phone, you know, ringing, you pick it up, there's a crank call, or you don't know who it is. Have you checked the It's hard to, because how many times do you not pick up your phone when you see a number you don't even know, right? I mean, I can't tell you how many times I see you know, my phone will ring and I'll be like, unknown number, whatever, you know, and I just let it go to voicemail, right? I'm not going to pick it up unless it's my agent or whoever, you know? So it's a difficult thing to get people to buy into, and maybe they will use today's technology. But then it's sort of, I don't want it to come across as,
you know, the one thing
hokey or, you know, cheesy.
No, I agree with everything you're saying. The one thing Blumhouse does have going for itself is, you know, this is not a movie that everyone knows. This is not an IP like Halloween or Nightmare on Elm Street or Friday the 13th, you know, that even the casual horror or even movie fan, doesn't even have to be horror fan, movie fan, they know the titles. My dad doesn't watch horror movies, but if I say Nightmare on Elm Street, he'll say Freddy. He knows.
Well, of course.
He knows enough to, you know, that even though he doesn't watch it, he knows. But you say Black Christmas, a lot of people don't know this.
No.
And they have that going for them, that they might be able to kind of fly under the radar here with a hit that, you know, might get people to go, oh, there was an original? Oh, well, let me go watch the original as well, too. So that they do have that going for them.
Yes. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And winning solves everything. Just make a good movie and okay, great. But even if there wasn't an original film, that is the whole point that I'm making, but there's nothing in the synopsis that gets me excited. Like there's nothing even of itself. It sounds like a standard horror film, you know, and it's written by two women. It's being directed by a woman, which is great. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
I couldn't care less. You're right. Just write a good story.
But if people are right, if people are right, and the last sentence is a little suspect in the way that it's going to be about women rising up and taking, you know, redemption and you know, we're not going to take it anymore, because that's what the synopsis says. It says the killer, I'm paraphrasing, is going to soon find out that this generation of young, you know, women won't be, you know, pushed around or whatever it kind of is. And it's kind of like, so you've just basically told me how this movie's going to go. You know, and that in of itself, it's kind of like, so I just find out in the synopsis what to expect, you know, and that kind of, you know, it doesn't mean the movie's not going to be good, but I question then what kind of Black Christmas film is this going to be? Because we have a lot of movies in the pop culture that have women rising up and defeating the antagonist. We have it. That's all horror movies are.
That's what I was saying.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, there's nothing about that synopsis that makes me think, oh, this is going to be different, you know? So it has me that, and then that's why I'm like, why not? That's why the ingredient of Black Christmas is what made it different. And the example I use is the movie Hush, you know, you know, and I know that Black Christmas would have a larger cast than Hush, but the point I'm making is that small movies in one or two locations with a small cast focused on mood and atmosphere and tension and suspense, and the people, it can work. It does work, you know, but you have to execute, right? People, it's not about, oh, people just don't want to see that. No, it's not about that people don't want to see it. Because when you do show people something like that that's good, they're actually like, oh, that's really good. You actually like that. It's that they deliver garbage. That's what ends up happening, is that they deliver the same shit all the time, just in a different package. And I have no interest in watching a movie called Black Christmas that is essentially Sorority Row. I have no interest in watching that. I'm not saying it's going to be. But that's why I was a little disappointed to hear that that the elements might have been removed, but we'll see. It's
well, you know, just for a moment, let's just play devil's advocate and let's just go to the extreme now. Let's just say this is what we are possibly thinking it could lead to, which is a part of the Me Too movement, you know, strong women, but it's so obvious. It's so in your face. my female friend said this to me this week when we were talking about this. She's a big horror fan like I am, and I agreed with when she said it before I did. If they go that route with this will hurt them in the sales afterwards. They might do well like opening weekend at the box office, but you might not be doing well on the DVD and streaming sales.
Right.
That's where it could affect them because, of course, initially the first weekend, everybody's going to go see it just out of curiosity. But if you really push that agenda down people's throat, it's going to turn people off. You're not going to get repeat viewing, and people are not going to buy a digital copy of it or a DVD copy. And that's where it's going to hurt them.
Yeah. And we're going to get to the Q&A here in just a second. I just want to finish by saying that I know a lot of women, my girlfriend included, and a lot of there's nothing wrong with empowering women. I think that's important. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. The trick is that you don't want to be pretentious about it, and you don't want to be sort of, obvious about it in a movie, because the women that I know have often said, I don't want to feel like I'm being coddled. Right. I don't want to feel like I'm, like you're holding my hand.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Like, oh, here, we'll give you your due. No, just make a good fucking movie. Like, right. Nobody cares. Just make a good fucking movie. And a lot of women are like, and that's great. And women have been empowered in horror movies for decades. So that's nothing new. So, hopefully I'm wrong, and Sophia Takel, or whatever her name is, the director of the film, blows me away. But right now, when I read the synopsis, I was like, it just sounds like a horror movie. They're reimagining Black Christmas. They're removing all of the elements that made Black Christmas, but they still want to have it take place on a college campus at Christmas time with a stalker. Well, that's great, but that's not necessarily what made Black Christmas. So
right. Well, the key thing too, like my girl was pointing out here, was that look at behind us. Look at behind me, the masks and all that stuff like that, and behind you. I'm not saying women don't do it. Women do it. There are a small percentage of women out there who are diehard horror fans like us guys, but predominantly this community is mostly men. It is mostly men. We are the ones out there buying the merchandise, okay? Again, I'm not saying women don't. The vast majority, like my girl, she don't buy that crap. No. I mean, she might wear a T-shirt or something, but she ain't buying the fucking merchandise. She don't care about that shit. And most women who do like horror movies, they don't. The small percentage out there, yes, but it's not enough to support the industry. That's kind of why Star Wars is in the shit that it's in right now, because Star Wars was always meant for the 8-year-old boy to go to the theaters and watch, superhero-esque, movies in space and, lightsabers and all that shit and, good versus evil. That's what George Lucas designed it for. He didn't, and it's not a sexist thing. That was the formula, with the original trilogy, and you can even say with the prequels. It was not intended to be a female-led. That's why you see the videos out there. That's why their merchandise sales are in the tanking right now.
Yeah, their merchandise sales are actually awful. It's horrible
because, again, girls,
there's a variety of reasons, not just that, but I get what you're saying. That.
Exactly. Yeah. You get what I'm saying? Girls don't tend to, like, when a girl becomes a teenager, sorry, man, she's not going to be buying Star Wars shit. Maybe the small percentage that remain faithful, of course they are, but most of them, man, they're moving on to boys, and that's it. So that's, that same thing with the horror community. And if they do this, if Black Christmas and the female directors and the writers take this road and turn it into some feminist push, okay, you might do well at the opening weekend because you're going to get everybody in there just out of sheer curiosity. And if that's your agenda, you're going to tank the second weekend, and you're going to be a disaster come, DVD or Blu-ray and digital sales.
Right. Yeah. No, I get what you're saying. I do. I just hope that at the end of the day, a good movie, like I always root for everybody. Sure. I want good movies, and I want good stories. I don't want movies to fail. Often I can tell a movie maybe is going to fail because of the surrounding details of the production, and and I look at a trailer and I go, yeah, I know, but at the end of the day, I want all horror movies to succeed. Unfortunately, there's just a safe zone that we've fallen into, a pattern we've fallen into that just doesn't do anything for me. I just don't care, about the broader stuff.
They just have to be prepared for the backlash. If they go down that road, they might realize like, crap, we didn't get the support that, because you remember now you're talking a horror film. The horror community is a very selective community. Yes, you might get, some people, and this is in December, right?
Well,
it's coming out.
Yeah, and sorry, I just want
coming out around Star Wars too, because Star Wars is coming out in December. That's kind of
ballsy. Yeah. Well, it comes out about a week before. But here's the thing too, is that Black Christmas is not a slasher movie. So when you take a movie that was never a slasher movie to begin with, it was a psychological sort of thriller. And when I say thriller, you have to think it's relative to its time. Black Christmas, it's like Halloween. I don't consider the first Halloween a slasher film at all. There's a lot of elements when you dive deep into, like on the surface, you can go, oh yeah, it's a slasher movie. Look, I get it. But when you dive deeper into the layers and you look at it from sort of a more objective view, it's not a slasher movie. Halloween is lumped into this, the first film is lumped into the slasher category primarily because of its subsequent sequels, because the sequels to Halloween are slasher movies, right? But the first film is not a slasher movie, no more than the first Psycho is a slasher film per se. But the relative to its time, Black Christmas, you can't take a movie that never had a sequel, had a remake, but never had a sequel, and turn it into something that it never was. And that's what concerns me. It's one of the reasons why a lot of people didn't like the remake. Now, I know there are some people here that probably did, but that is a bona fide slasher film. And you get to know more about Billy. He's got a last name in the movie. You know more about why he's doing what he's doing. And it's like, you just removed what made the first movie so great. And now it's, yeah, but it's updated, Dave. It's updated. Okay, fine. It's updated. I think it's dog shit. I think it's dog
Dave!
Shit. Because sometimes things are in my opinion, you don't need to know every fucking thing. And sometimes the mystery and the mystique of something is what makes it cool, is what makes it, interesting. It's not that I think Halloween 1978 isn't dated today. Yes, there's things that are dated about it. There's things that are cheesy about it, but it's got the most rewatch value to me. I think it's the best in the series because I can get lost in the ambiguous sort of story of what they're telling right there. It's creepy and it's eerie, and I feel the same way about Black Christmas. You open that up to something about, girls getting killed on campus and then a bunch of girls seeking, revenge and, redemption and rising up. It just is like, okay, I guess it's just the 21st century Black Christmas, but I just don't like it. I'm not saying I'm not going to like the movie. What I hear right now, I'm just like, oh, okay. All right. Well, we'll see. We'll see how this goes.
In case someone catches this stream and thinks that we're too anti-female. No, that's not the case at all. Again, you have to look at your demographics and you have to look at who the horror community is. It is predominantly and will always be driven by men.
Sure.
Again, that's not saying women don't like horror, but when you go to these conventions and you go to the theaters and whatnot and watch a horror film, it's predominantly guys in there.
Of course it is.
You have girls in there. I'm not saying girls don't like it, but it's a smaller percentage than the majority who support this part or this industry.
If anybody watching this show or watching my channel ever accused me of being anti-woman, I tell them to go fuck themselves, because they obviously have no idea who I am or what my channel is all about. It's somebody who doesn't understand nuance. It's one of the reasons why you hear me say on this channel, by and large, generally speaking, I have to do that because people don't understand fucking nuance. People take things so literally, right? And that's why I said you can focus on the SJW shit if you want to, but I want to focus on the other side because that's more tight. That's something you cannot deny. You cannot deny that the end of Black, Christmas was not about redemption and female empowerment, and it had nothing to do with that. No. You cannot deny that.
Great.
Oh, it's such a great ending. And if you remove that and remove the killer in the house and the stuff, I don't know. It loses something for me. But I am open to seeing what Sophia is going to do. Anyway, let's move on here. So let's get to the Q&A. There were some two super chats that came in earlier, and let me see. Joseph Formato. Thank you, Joseph. He says, "Hey Dave, enjoy the channel. Started watching you due to your rant on Halloween 5 how Halloween 5 ruined the Halloween franchise. I gotta say, I agree with your thoughts on the franchise and on the horror genre." Well, thank you very much, Joseph. That's the thing, folks, is that we don't always have to agree with each other, but it means a lot that people tune in and hear what I have to say. And if you agree with me, that's great. If you don't, that's okay too. So thank you, Joseph. Very much appreciate the support to the channel. Joseph Romano follows up again and says, Dave and Tony, glad I finally gave the time to watch you guys live. Love two dudes and some BS. Thank you again, Joseph. Much appreciated. All right, let's go down the line here and see if we can get some questions in. Tony, you pick one.
If you guys could own one piece of horror memorabilia, what would it be? Taken from Dave's Facebook and turned around on you guys. What?
Oh, the other day I made a post on my Facebook. If you are on Facebook and you're not following me on Facebook, the link is in the description, facebook.com/manythingsdavemccrae. That's the page associated with this YouTube channel. So follow me there. I made a post, if you could have one piece of horror memorabilia, what would it be? And so that's what it was. Oh, Tony's got...
I got one.
List. There it is.
This is... hold on. My headphones came out. Oh. That is, my friends, this is legit. This is the real deal. This is screen used. This is the Scream knife. Now, what was it? It's the real knife. Now, this is not like one that you can get stabbed with, because if you stab someone, you're going to kill them. So this, I'm assuming, was used for a lot of close-ups when either Billy or, Christ, what was the other guy's name now? I only remember Stu. How can I forget Stu? When they were holding the knife, whether it was at distance or for close-ups, just to show that the real knife. That is, this is one of however many they used in the original. This is from the original Scream. So I guess cool. I own, one thing that's a horror memorabilia. Do you own anything?
I own a lot of horror memorabilia stuff, but not necessarily something that's screen used.
Okay.
But I would say it's a tough question. I'm not really sure, but if I could have something screen used, and again, folks, when somebody says screen use, like Tony gave a great, example there. There's this misconception that if something is screen used, that's the hero version of, whatever that was. No, it could be in 1 shot, 2 shots, right. 10 shots. It was on camera. It could have been on camera and then cut from the final, film. Who the hell knows? But it was on set in the movie at some point on camera, which is really cool to have. For me, screen use, I don't know, maybe off the top of my head to have a screen use Freddy Krueger glove, maybe that would be kind of cool.
Oh man, that'd be great.
That would be kind of cool.
That would be really cool.
Yeah, of course they make so many guys make replicas now that are so good that but yeah, maybe that would be it. Maybe, I don't know, I got to think about that. I haven't really thought about that for myself. Brandon Berry, super chat. Thank you, Brandon. What do you think of the Swamp Thing being canceled? Well, I was never really excited about Swamp Thing to begin with. Not that I was not excited about it. I just didn't, it kind of came under the radar and I'm like, man, I don't really, maybe I'll watch it. I don't know. So when it was canceled, I kind of felt ambivalent to it. I just was kind of like, oh, okay. Well, so it was canceled. I don't have any attachment to Swamp Thing. That doesn't mean that the show wouldn't have been good.
Yeah.
But I didn't really feel any way. I don't know. What do you think?
What was the question? I took my headphones off and put my knife back.
Oh, what do you think about Swamp Thing being canceled?
I never was really, honestly, I probably wouldn't have even watched it.
Yeah.
So
there you go.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Super chat from Zeno Zuma says, do you guys see yourselves ever doing an episode on Suspiria and the Suspiria remake? I think it would make for a great episode. That's not actually a bad suggestion. I haven't seen the original Suspiria in a number of years, so I'd have to watch that again. And I haven't seen the remake at all. So I don't know, Tony, would you be interested in that maybe?
I'm always open to talk about whatever, man. I mean, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they're good, some good psychological elements in both those movies. So.
Sure. Electric Drive-In, Dave and Tony, do you guys read or review fan scripts? I have a finished Elm Street project featuring Nancy, Jesse, and Alice joining forces to coach a new generation of Dream Warriors. Question by Electric Drive-In. Dave, do you read or review fan scripts?
I do not. And the reason I don't is that it's nothing personal. It's just I don't have the time. And as much as I would love to be able to sit down and read a script, it's like the old saying goes that if I have to do it to you, I have to do it for everybody. And no, I mean, I don't have to do it for everybody. Obviously, it's a figure of speech. And there was, I think about 2.5 or 3 years ago, somebody got in touch with me, and I said yes, and I started to read it, and then I got busy, and then I was trying to get, and they were wondering what was going on, and then they told their friend, "Why don't you get Dave to read?" And then I got somebody else that was, trying to get. And I said, "No, I can't really do it because I was telling, yeah, but you read this guy's." Well, I only read half of it. It was just a big thing, and I'm like, I can't. I don't need that drama. Okay, I don't need the drama in my life in that regard. It's not personal. You may have written a great script. But unfortunately, I don't say yes to that. It's just because I take those things so seriously. I care too much. That's the problem. And not that that's a problem, but I legitimately care about doing a good job that I couldn't half read your script and fake it for you because I feel that's so disingenuous, and I take it so seriously that I would want to do a good job. And unfortunately, I just don't have the time. So it's not personal. Tony, you?
It's the same. I mean, I know it sounds like a cliche, but I mean, really, with my commercial photography, like Dave said, with his voiceover stuff, I mean, I'm doing anywhere between 3 to 5 shoots a day. I'm putting in 16-hour days, between doing stuff for my corporate clients, plus the shit that I create on Instagram. I do that stuff, every day as well too. So it's like there's only so much of me to go out. Plus, I read my own, shit when I have like about 30 minutes to spare throughout the course of the day. But to be quite honest, one, I don't think I have the credentials to actually give you a validation. If I said I liked it, I don't want that to be a misconception of like, great, I'm going to be a screenwriter now, you know what I'm saying? Or if I didn't like it, I wouldn't want to tell you that either, because I wouldn't want to deter you from maybe this is what you want to do as a career, So like, it's such a really gray area when it comes to that type of thing. And I'm not really like, I've never written a script before. So that's what what I mean by credentials, like I wouldn't even know if I was giving you the proper advice. In my honest opinion, yeah, you could ask someone who reviews movies or stuff like that and whatever to do it. But to be honest, you should ask another writer to review it. That's where you need to go. Are you putting proper, are you using the proper grammar first and foremost? Are you articulating the narration going on between your characters well enough? That's where you need to send it to someone who is a writer that can give you that type of feedback to tell you what you need to do and how to restructure a sentence or whatever. And then, from there, maybe give it to someone who has directed movies, even if it's on the independent circuit level, so they can look at it and go, okay, well, this is the fat you need to cut out of it because you need to trim it down to whatever, 80 to 100 pages and whatever and whatnot. That's where you need to go. I mean, I think it's flattering that you ask me and Dave to do it. But I mean, at the end of the day, I said this to someone on Instagram the other day. I'm just a fucking photographer, man. I don't view myself above you guys. In fact, I feel like we're all pretty much on the same equal level. We're just chill dudes. Me and Dave, I'm saying now, we're just two guys who love fucking horror movies, and we're just hanging out with you guys, every week and just shooting shit about horror movies. I would never feel like I'm like on this tier level above you guys by any means. So that's why I feel like my opinion really wouldn't be the validation that you probably would want to look for. I think you should go down some of the alternatives that Dave has suggested, or I.
Great answer, folks. Let's see. Zach Frederick says, "Hey guys, congratulations, Dave. Raptors won. I'm glad somebody finally dethroned the Warriors, and I hate the Patriots, but I'm happy for Tony that his team won this year too. Love you guys. Congrats." Well, thank you very much, Zach. Much appreciated.
I don't see too many Patriot fans out there.
Kenny525 says, "I've always wanted something from Scream. I'm really jealous. I wanted the torn up bloody shirts that Stu and Billy wore. Yeah, that'd be cool."
You hit me with the phone, dick.
What are you doing? I can't believe it, man.
Improvise that line, and Wes kept it in. That
did he
line
really?
where Billy hits him with the phone. And he's like, "You hit me with the phone, dick."
Yeah, totally, I can see that.
Man. Matthew Lillard totally improvised that shit.
I would have kept that in too. Verisimilitude says, "Freddy's Dead. I have a soft spot for. Saw it in 3D in the theater at the age of 5. Well, I'm sure they are very glad that they have you as a fan. Super chat from Neil Rook, who says, thank you for the super chat. Dave, I'm an actor like you. How do I get an agent? Well, that's
difficult. Voice actor?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Do you mean, are you a voice actor, an on-camera actor? What's your level of experience?
I think wouldn't voice actor and face actor, wouldn't they be two different types of agents?
They can be, but you can also have the same agent. You can have, because there are some agencies that have a voiceover division. Like if you look at some of the big agencies in Hollywood, whether it's ICM, William Morris Endeavor, what's the other one? Damn, I forget it now. They are large enough where they represent actors, writers, directors, performers, voice actors, all that kind of thing. So it all depends. I'm with two voiceover agents specifically, one for animation and then one for commercials, promos, and trailers. But I would need to know, Neil, sort of how do I get an agent? Are you an on-camera actor? Are you a voice agent? What's your level of experience? If you make a comment there, I'll try to see it and maybe I can help you out with it. William, William Goldschmidt. Thank you, William, for the super chat. Tony, do you play chess like your idol Kubrick?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, actually, I only play chess with one person. It's my brother. And my brother's really good at chess. I do the online stuff once in a while if I have like a moment to spare, but that's very, very rare. But yeah, me and my brother will always play, when we're, round for each other's birthdays or the holidays and whatnot. And I'm okay. I mean, I know some solid moves and whatnot. It's funny because I do like, chess stories of like grandmasters and shit, whether it's, what's his name? Carlson, Mangus I think is his first name. Yeah, the young kid who's this been incredible protege, great story.
Yeah, something like that.
Or you can go back to the Bobby Fischer stuff.
Yeah.
From back then. But yeah, I love watching. I do like watching actual real grandmasters play each other and just like fucking how are they like strategizing this shit, because like for me, like I say, I'm solid. Like if I tried to go to New York and play the guys on the street, I'd lose all my money in 5 fucking minutes. Like I'm not that good. I know my moves and that's about as far as it can get. But I've always been fascinated watching grandmasters play each other because it's just the strategizing of what they're doing and whatnot. I mean, I'm surprised more of them aren't generals and armies, because you really are thinking like it's a military attack and how you're going to attack your opponents.
Sure. Yeah, I'm not a chess player at all. I like checkers, but
bitch.
Yeah, I'm not. I learned a long time ago, like when I was like 12 or 13, but I never retained it because I never played anybody, and I think it's a cool, interesting game. But I'm not a checker or a chess person at all.
The film addict, he wanted to know thoughts on. He had something here and it scrolled by. The Joker being confirmed, Todd Phillips' Joker being confirmed R-rated. Not surprised, with the tone that you're already seeing in the previews, that you almost need to go there with what I think we're all going to receive here this October with this movie. I'm envisioning the Joker that it's like basically like if Heath Ledger was told, dude, go fucking nuttier than what you've done already. I think that's the kind of Joker we're going to get with Joaquin Phoenix. So yeah, I'm not shocked.
Yeah, I think people have to remember too. There's not everybody thinks this way, but it's important to remember that R-rated doesn't necessarily mean gratuitous violence.
Right.
And I think we come from an era where when you hear something is R-rated, traditionally that meant, maybe a couple F-bombs, some tits, and blood, guts, and gore. And where do you usually see that? Horror movies, right? So usually it's the horror movies that are, hard R's, or maybe some action films that are hard R's. But it's not, generally speaking, the comic book movie. So when a comic book movie becomes R, it's not necessarily meaning that this is going to be, heavy violence and things like that. It could be the power of suggestions through the psychological means of what the character is even going through. You drop a couple of F-bombs in there, and maybe there's a naked, we see his mom nude in the bathtub, and, away you go. There's a variety of there's criteria that the MPAA, which is the Motion Picture Association of America, has to determine whether or not something is rated R or PG-13. And, you can have a lot of violence in a PG-13 film. You can have a boatload of violence in a PG-13 film. So we have to remember that when you hear that the Joker is R, that doesn't necessarily mean that, we're going to get it. It's going to be intense now in terms of violence. It could have already been intense in terms of violence, but now there's maybe some psychological themes that are quite disturbing mixed in with
that's what I'm thinking.
Language.
It's going to be very disturbing, and that's what I'm very much looking forward to, that we might truly see the psychopath that the Joker really is. Right. You don't need to be a comic book expert to know that this is the most sadistic, villain in the DC world, especially with Batman. They just, they've never gone there with it. Jack was kind of, Jack was more the gangster Joker, whereas Heath was more the sadistic, borderline sadistic kind of gangster.
One was real world, the other was comic book.
Exactly. So I'm really hoping that, with the new one here we get in October, that I hope they go there with some scenes that makes me feel like I'm watching A Clockwork Orange, where it's like, shit, this is fucking disturbing, but thanks, this is what I wanted.
Yeah, I got you. Joseph Formato, super chat. Thank you, Joseph. Says still waiting on the Halloween video game concept you made up, Dave. Yeah, that video. Yeah, I would. And for those of you that don't know what Joseph is talking about, maybe this time last year, maybe a little later, I did a video where I talked about a Halloween video game concept, and my video game concept was like Grand Theft Auto, but it's Halloween. So it's open world. You can be whoever you want to be. You can be like, maybe there's certain characters that you have to unlock, but you can start as like Dr. Loomis, or you can start as Dr. Loomis from like Halloween 1, but in order to unlock the Dr. Loomis from Halloween 4, you got to accomplish certain things, right? And you can unlock, everybody's favorite, not everybody's, but most people's favorite Michael Myers is probably either, Nick Castle or Dick Warlock, maybe now, James Jude Courtney, but traditionally it's always been Nick, right? So maybe you don't start off, playing as Nick Castle. You have to get to a certain level to unlock his, version or whatever. But you can drive all around Haddonfield. I'm not talking about the daylight. You should
start off with Halloween 5's version.
I'm not talking about the little Halloween game that they made, which was okay. I'm talking about open world, driving anywhere in Haddonfield. You drive in the station wagon. You can go to the store. You can walk into a store. You can greet people. You can fucking go to the school. You can go over to the next town. You can go to Russellville, meet old Charlie Bowles. You know what I'm talking about, man?
Old Charlie.
Yeah, I'm just like an open world Halloween game where if you choose to be Loomis, you're hunting Michael. If you choose to be Michael, you're doing the killing, trying to escape the wrath of Loomis. You know what I mean? And I just think that'd be so much fun.
That's a cool idea, man. I'm surprised no one's picked up on that shit.
Well, the money it would take to do it legit. I mean, the graphics. Like, I want the graphics to be state of the fucking art.
Bro, you need to copyright that shit before someone steals your idea.
I don't want. You can't copyright an idea, but.
Oh yeah, that's true. Especially an IP that's already been used. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but if anybody from Blumhouse or EA Sports. Or whatever it is, if anybody from EB Games is watching, if anybody from EA or any of the big, video games,
it's not a bad idea.
Let's work together with Blumhouse and Trancas, and let's get this done. I'm telling you, if there everybody in the chat room knows right now, if there was a video game that was as monstrous and as amazing as that, we'd all be in our fucking basements playing it for days.
Oh yeah.
Fucking yeah, that'd be awesome.
Are there, Mason Locklear, are there any careers that have something to do with discussing film that you know of? Bro, what we're doing right now. Look at how many YouTubers out there do movie reviews. Cody Leach, guys at Wham, Dum Drums, and, John Campia, all these guys out there. This is what they do. Now, the key thing is, 1, you need to be patient to grow an audience. 2, be informative. You got to know what you're talking about. That's very, very important. You got to be likable. That's
Yeah, don't be like us.
Yeah, no, really, we are the worst examples to follow. Like, really, because we're just two dudes who don't give a shit. You know, like, this is not our career. We already have our career.
Two dudes who don't give a shit.
We don't. I mean, honestly,
that's the new name of the show.
Two dudes who don't give a shit. We don't. I mean, like, we're not. Like, you know, like,
no, that's not true.
You know, we you know, because we have our career, so we're not doing this as a career. So we come at it from a, you know, we're the misfits, you know, we're the outcasts, you know, we're the toys there on the island of misfit toys. You know, we're doing it our own fucking way, and fuck you guys out there who do it the structured way. So, but yeah, if you know, just watch, like, you know, Collider is a good channel to watch. Watch how they're structured. Watch how they deliver it. You know, you're seeing a lot of people doing, and this is kind of, you know, my girl was talking to me about this week. She's like, you know, more people are doing like just the regular 1 hour streaming. They're not doing the cut up videos that you used to do and spend 9 hours, 10 hours a day editing. And I'm seeing that now because I think people are realizing, like, in order to keep putting out content, to do those types of videos where you're editing 9 hours, it's almost impossible to fucking do.
Well, it takes, I mean, it does. Look, I mean, this obviously, as Tony said, it's not my full-time job. My full-time job is a professional voice actor, and I've had this channel for 13 years, but I only started to put my face out there about 2 years ago. And I only did that because of the announcement of Halloween and the fact that they were going to do another Halloween. So I needed to vent. I needed to talk to, you know, an audience somewhere, somehow. But I never had a game plan of where this channel was going to go. But one thing that I think is important to anybody who wants to do this is in the sense of, you know, talk about something you know a lot about. Mm-hmm. And stick to that. You can't be everything. My channel, I can contribute to the superhero genre from a filmmaking perspective. I can contribute to the superhero genre and films from a certain perspective, but you'll never see me talking about the superhero genre or the MCU from the more deep-seated perspective of the universe and the mythology and the history and what's going on, because I'm out of my league. I don't know what I'm talking about. So I leave that to those who do it and do it well. And I tend to focus, you know, my channel on, yes, I can talk about movies and, you know, all that stuff, but I tend to want to talk about, you know, what I know. I always like to come at it from an informed opinion. And I've spent almost 20 years in the entertainment industry, and I feel that maybe not, I don't know, you guys fucking can decide that, but I thought maybe, or decide this, I should say, that maybe I have a bit of perspective that maybe some people haven't thought about, you know, because of the experience that I have, or the people I've met, or the places I've been, or I've been to a lot of sets and, you know, this kind of stuff. And I'm not the only one that has that experience, of course not. But I just feel that maybe I can add my 2 cents in, and maybe it's something that gives you something to think about, and maybe it doesn't. Maybe you don't give a fuck. I don't know. But at the end of the day, my channel is all about being true to what I know and where I can be of best value to you, the viewer. And I can't talk about everything. Tony can't talk about everything. We can't talk about everything in terms of having the same level of value of everything, which is why my channel which is why I don't do movie reviews, right? My channel is more of it's a commentating channel, right? Where I can do a review if I want to, but it's more about adding different perspectives and talking about movies and horror and anything. You know, if I want to talk about, you know, the Raptors, I do. So my advice is just to find something that you are passionate about and make sure that you have an identity in terms of your brand. Because if you don't have an identity in terms of your brand, then it, you know, like don't call yourself a horror channel and then all of a sudden you start talking about sports 3 days a week.
That'll kill you.
It'll kill you. Don't talk about sports 3 days a week, or sorry, don't call yourself a sports channel and you're talking about horror 3 days a week. You know what I mean? So that's really to do a video once in a blue moon because, I don't know, the Raptors won the championship and it's relevant because everybody knows you're a fan. That's okay. but hone in and focus in on something that you're passionate about and see where the chips fall. Let the chips fall where they may, you know, and just see what happens. And if you're engaging enough, and if you're passionate enough, and if you're consistent enough with your uploads and your content, you'll find, a following. And I just, I don't know where the show is going. I don't know where I'm going on the thing. I just know that we're having a great time doing it, and we're going to let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah, and once you hear that what Dave just said is very true about the type, your ID and your content, because the same shit happened to me on Instagram here when I was ready to pull the trigger on this horror themed stuff that I've been doing now. It was a very slow transition. I started off with the Michael just to see what type of feedback was even going to get any type of response. Because before I cleaned up my Instagram, it was a lot of landscape photos and some portrait stuff with some girls and whatever and whatnot. It was kind of all over the place. I didn't really have the identity. But once I started to invest into this, and I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to go gun ho. I had to make the slow transition because the people who were already following me were like caught off guard by it. Like, what are you doing, dude? Because we're following you for the other shit. And I knew that meant I was going to lose people, but I knew also going forward that really this is the direction I want to go, because, man, I'm having so much fun making these photos for you guys. And that is why I slowly began to creep away from the landscape stuff and the city photos and the girls photos, and really just went hardcore horror, because now I have my voice out there and I'm getting the reactions and I'm getting new people following me every day and commenting on my pictures and stuff. If I were to detour from that, like Dave said, if I were to now fucking throw up a baby picture, a maternity shoot or whatever, although I did do a maternity shoot inside the Walking Dead house that's abandoned farmhouse. That was the one exception to the rule that I threw up there because it had a horror themed element. But you get what I'm saying. If I did something that detoured that, everyone now who's following me because I'm doing horror shit is going to look at my account and go, what are you doing, bro? And if you do something like that, that will fucking hurt you. So,
yeah, and it's about consistency, right?
Yes.
If you were to suddenly do that, to do one little thing every once in a while is not a big deal.
Once in a while is fine,
right?
Yes.
But if it suddenly becomes consistent, then people start to think, look, it's been proven that audiences, viewers, it's been proven, that people like routine and they like consistency, and not a lot of people. People don't like change. And not everybody. Change is good, but generally speaking, people like familiarity. And if you start to sort of do things that are out of their comfort zone or doesn't really make any sense, or what are you doing, even though you're not really changing yourself per se, you can get people sort of worried about that. So anyway, yeah, this is a long-winded sort of answer, but
it's a great question.
It's a great question.
And like Dave and I said, man, you got to know, be informative. And understand you're going to have people who are going to disagree with you. You got to be very prepared for that. Yeah. You're going to have a lot of trolling comments on there. You got to have a thick skin. More importantly, just have fun with it. Don't forget to have fun with it. And I think that's where me and Dave come from. Like I was saying earlier, we both have our careers, so we can do this shit and there's no pressure. We just have fun and we're just shooting the shit.
Yeah, exactly. Couldn't agree more. Adam Carl Green says, guys, do you have a favorite cat and mouse movie? Example, No Country for Old Men, Enemy of the State, The Fugitive, Butch Cassidy, The Sundance Kid. Boy, all those movies are really good.
I was going to say The Fugitive.
I'm going to say The Fugitive is one of my favorites.
First one that came to my mind was The Fugitive.
Yeah, it's true. Neil Rook says, at Dave McCrae, Mike's, oh, good, he's following up. My experience is 3 years of college, theater school, and some amateur dramatic performances. I've had some work as an extra in a few films too. I'd love to get into the voiceover work like you. Okay, well, and you want an agent. Okay, well, you can't get an agent if you are looking to pursue a career as an on-camera actor. The first thing I would say to you, you've been to theater school, you have some amateur dramatic performances. I don't know how long ago that was for you, but if it's been a while, my advice to you would be to take an acting class, brush up on some basics, and you're gonna need headshots. And you can't get an agent without headshots, because the first thing an agent is going to say to you when you approach them, I want you to be my agent. They're going to say, okay, great. Do you have a headshot? And, it's like you can't get an agent without a headshot, so you're going to need headshots. And don't whatever you do, don't cheap out on headshots. Tony, as a photographer, will be able to back me up on this. The last thing you want to do is cheap out on some headshots. Raise the money, save the money, spend the money on a professional photographer with great lighting in a great environment who will give you at least 2 or 3 different looks, because you have to remember that you don't want to go to an agent with just this look. You know, you want to have a look maybe where you're like this, but maybe you have a look where, you know, you're like this. You know, so it's like, ooh, now he kind of looks like the badass, right? And maybe there's another look where, you know, it's something else. So, and you can spend a hefty, you know, coin on that.
You're gonna probably, for headshots, for someone who knows what they're doing, that's the most important thing. You're gonna probably spend close to about $500. You know, currently, you know, for someone who knows what they're doing. Now, you can always go get that college kid who's got a entry-level DSLR camera and try to, you know, but just remember, you know, here's the key factor. What's going to separate you from the other person is the other person might spend the $500 to get it professionally done.
Absolutely.
Because they want it that much more.
Right. The best thing to do would be to save $1,000. And the reason why is because it might cost you $400 or $500 for the shoot, but then there's the processing and printing of the photographs as well. Now, in today's day and age, a lot of things are digitally done. When I was doing on-camera work back at the beginning of years ago, the headshots were printed. Not that they aren't today, they are, but there was no, you know, nobody was submitting digitally back then, and they would have your resume. You'd have, like, you know, your resume here, and on the back you'd have your headshot, and not like it would be, you know, attached. Today, I think more and more agents and casting directors do receive digital headshots and resume, so that might save you some coin, but it doesn't hurt to save that ballpark so you have extra if you need it for some printing or, you know, this or whatever it is. It does not cost money to have an agent. So if an agent says, I would love to be your agent, I think you're phenomenal, that's great, that'll be $500, tell them to go fuck themselves. Because an agent makes money when you make money. And in the United States, it's 10%. Here in Canada, it's 15%. I don't know what it is across the pond. I saw that your super chat was in pounds, so I'm assuming you're across the pond. But, you know, I mean, there might be a fee for something because they printed out something or something like that, but it doesn't cost anything to have an agent. They work for you. Now, that doesn't mean that the agent can't let you go, okay? But they work for you. But you're going to need those headshots. When it comes to voiceover, you need to take an acting class because voice acting is acting. I would start with some acting classes and some improv classes, and then I would move into some professional voiceover classes and learn the art of voiceover, learn what it's all about and what it is. It's not just about doing funny voices. And eventually you'll have to move to a point where you have a voiceover demo, and that demo has to be professionally produced, mixed, and mastered. It is your voiceover equivalent to an on-camera actor's headshot. Right? Because if you go to a voice agent and say, I want you to to represent me as a voice actor, they're going to say, well, do you have a voiceover demo? Because that's what they use. And if you don't, well, then, you know, you got to go get one. But don't cheap it out on that. Don't record it in your bathroom on your fucking iPhone. Okay, this is, you have to, you know. So it's a big thing. But the first thing you need to do is, again, I don't know how long it's been, but get yourself out there, taking classes, you know, getting back into the groove, into the zone, and meet other people in your position. Meet other people taking those classes. Half the battle of success is surrounding yourself with the right people.
True story.
Super chat, Todd Fayer. Thank you. Todd says, hey guys, what is your favorite Monopoly piece to be?
Thimble.
The shoe.
Oh. I like the thimble because no one ever picked the thimble. That's why I picked it.
I was going to say the shoe only because I did a Saturday movie night last night watching Friday the 13th. And of course, the Brenda girls in there going, I'm the shoe. I'm like, all right. When they were going to play strip Monopoly.
I haven't played Monopoly in forever. But yeah, I always picked the thimble when we did play.
There you go. I don't always play Monopoly, but when I do, I pick the thimble.
Yeah. Cross Codwell, Super Chat. Just curious, guys, what's your A24 film? Good God, man, that's a hard question. There's so many great ones that, like, to narrow to, I mean, Hereditary is like the first one that comes to my mind.
I would probably say at the moment, maybe Hereditary. I did like The Witch.
The Witch is good too. Yeah. I have that. Dude, there's so many. That's a tough question.
That is a tough one.
Great question, but tough question.
It is. Let me just see here. I want to make sure I got their films right. My buddy Bruce actually knows the producer who worked on Witch.
Oh, really?
Oh, sorry, cool. The Witch. Yeah,
The Witch. Cool.
Because I believe The Witch was shot up here.
Zach Frederick, you like my what shirt? What? You're gonna go drink some beer tonight? What?
You like my what? What'd you say? What'd you say, mother? Trick or treat, motherfucker.
No, it's a Stone Cold Steve Austin.
I know.
Question mark shirt. So
I always imitate Busta Rhymes like this. I always go trick or treat, motherfucker, but he doesn't say it like that. He's just like,
no, he doesn't.
Trick or treat, motherfucker. He just kind of says it like that. But I always add the trick or treat, motherfucker.
Yeah, he does sound like he's kind of seducing Michael there at the end with that line.
He kind of does. You're right. Let's see here. TH3R3D Hood says, do you guys think Batman Begins is overlooked because The Dark Knight is so great? I don't know if I could say that I think it's overlooked. All I can say is that a couple years ago, I watched all 3 Dark Knight films back to back to back. Like I watched Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, and then The Dark Knight Rises, and watching them in order over the course of like 6 or 7 hours, I got to say that I think I like Batman Begins the best. And that's not saying that The Dark Knight isn't good. It's great. It's phenomenal. But there's something about Batman Begins that I really like that movie. I think it's a great film. The question was, do you think that Batman Begins is overlooked because The Dark Knight is so great?
Oh no, Dark Knight's your favorite, yeah.
No. I said Batman Begins is actually, I watched.
Yes.
Yeah. Like The Dark Knight is great, but I actually kind of think, I think my favorite is Batman Begins. So I don't know if it gets overlooked, but I just got to say that yeah, watching them back to back to back, I really love that first one.
Yeah, that's a good
let's
one.
see here.
Kenny525. Hey, Dave and Tony, ever been to any film locations? He grew up 10 minutes from the Woodsboro High in Scream 1 in Sonoma, California. Well, cool, man.
Very cool.
Toronto. I mean, my God, like you pick and choose like your filming locations up there for the amount of stuff that's been filmed up there. Holy crap. I mean, the Suicide Squad was just filmed up there not too long ago.
Yeah. Look, I mean,
the list is never ending. But for me, because, Atlanta, there's so many, around Avengers. I was down there when they were filming Infinity War. Infinity War. We were down there doing a photo shoot. They had the whole scene blocked off and everything. And we saw them bringing the little miniatures that they were going to be filming and stuff like that, for the actors to look at. But the Friday the 13th photos that I actually take and share on my Instagram, like the new one that I'm going to share later on tonight, all those photos were taken at the filming location for Friday the 13th Part 6. I'm just utilizing the whole campground now rather than just the selective area that Tom, the director, that he used. He only used a few handful of cabins and whatnot. In fact, they actually converted for the kids' cabin. The kids' cabin in the movie is actually their dining hall.
Very cool.
That they put up a bookcase to block off the doorway that leads into the kitchen that you see them and the counselors in at the beginning of the film. Because I was learning that as the park rangers were showing me around and they were showing me all like the spots where they film. I'm just kind of expanding out now and I've gotten to know them and they let me go in there and shoot now whenever I want. And I just utilize the entire campground. So that's my highlight because it's horror themed related. And I like the fact that I'm doing Friday the 13th pictures at a Friday the 13th film location.
Yeah, look, I mean, Toronto often called Hollywood North. I mean, they've shot so many films up here. Here's just a few. Adventures in Babysitting, Angel Eyes, American Psycho, Billy Madison, Black Christmas, Blade 2, what do we got here? Chicago, A Christmas Story, Cinderella Man,
Christmas
Crash.
Story was filmed up there?
It was. Dark Water, Dawn of the Dead from 2004, Devil, Don't Say a Word, Double Impact with Van Damme. Fantastic Four from 2005, Fever Pitch, let's see here, The Fly from 1986. Glitter was shot up here. Hairspray, Half Baked.
Don't hate Amaraya.
Yeah, Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle. The Incredible Hulk. Jason X was shot up here. What do we got? Probably, yeah.
Had to have been a soundstage,
yeah. Let's see, what else we got? Pacific Rim, of course. 4 or 5 of the Police Academy movies.
The mall that I lived like 5 seconds from, the Stranger Things season 3 was just shot there, and I've walked around. And I saw the set for that, which was really cool.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. The Santa Claus. Saw 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 were all shot up here in Toronto. It Chapter 1 and It Chapter 2 coming out this September was shot up here. So yeah, I mean, there's just there's so many movies are shot up here. Now that being said, actual
you've been to Pasadena, right?
Yes, actual filming locations I've been to. Suicide Squad is another one that was shot up here. I've been to the Myers house. I've been to the Strode house. I've been to the Elm Street house. I've been to the Blade Runner house. So I've been to a lot of different filming locations and around there, which is really cool.
On the Elm Street house for you, from my understanding, where it's actually located, like the perception in the movie is that it's like set back in this like quiet, little neighborhood. But in fact, like, isn't it like 50 yards where it's right near a main, like really busy drag strip? Not drag strip, but like busy, like, roadway with cars. The Elm Street house. Like literally right there.
The Elm Street house and the Doyle and Wallace houses are on opposite sides of Sunset Boulevard. And when you're driving, I believe it's west on Sunset Boulevard, there's the Elm Street, which you turn onto. And if you're just looking at it this way, it looks like you're in the middle of suburbia.
Right.
But when you just go like this, there's this big hustle and bustle of Sunset Boulevard. So, and same thing with the Doyle and Wallace.
Glenn's house is on that same street, across the street, right?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yep, absolutely. Like the Wallace house and the Doyle house are literally about a 3-minute walk from the Myers house and Glenn's house, just on opposite sides of the street.
Now, didn't they use 4 houses on that street for the Halloween movie, though? They used the exteriors and then the interiors for the 2 other houses, right?
Correct. That's correct. Yes. I believe the laundry, when Annie goes to the laundry outside, I believe that is actually the back of the Doyle house.
Okay.
I think, anyway. I stand to be corrected on that. Maybe it's the other one across the street. Anyway, yeah, no, they utilized a few houses there. Now, the Halloween TV version, the Halloween the extra scenes from the TV version of the original Halloween, when Linda knocks on the door and Jamie Lee Curtis comes down the stairs and Linda comes in and she's like, there's some guy who's been, following me, blah, blah, blah. And Jamie Lee Curtis has her hair in a towel.
Because she cut her hair.
Right. Now, those scenes were actually filmed inside the Elm Street house.
That's right. That's the real Elm Street house.
That's the real interior of the Elm Street house. The interior of the Elm Street house in the movies was actually a soundstage. Yeah, but that actually is the interior of the Elm Street house. So for those of you that didn't know that.
And Craven did that with each other. Found like little because I just watched Scream the other day and I'm like, that was really cool for Craven to like throw in like Halloween, that's the movie they're watching at the party. You get the little bit of the soundtrack in there too, I liked, I don't know if these guys did it intentionally or what, but I like that if they did do it intentionally and they did those little wink and nods, I thought that was really cool that they did
Exactly. Super chat from PC Pierce says, are there any serial killers that fascinate you? That's a good question. A lot of them, PC.
Bundy, Zodiac. Yeah. Zodiac especially. I watch a lot of stuff on Zodiac.
Yeah, and the Zodiac movie, for those of you guys that have not seen David Fincher's 2007 Zodiac, watch it.
Great film.
It's so underrated.
Yeah, it really is. Downey Jr., Mark Ruffalo, Jake Gyllenhaal. It is a phenomenal film. I love that. I love their take on the Zodiac, and obviously they based it on the artist. I forget his name now. Jeez, I used to know it off the top of my head. He was the artist of the artist of the Chronicle at the time, the San Francisco Chronicle.
Right, I know who you're talking about.
And he wrote the book that they based the movie on. And Zodiac. It's just it's a creepy story because it was Robert Graysmith. Thank you, Electric Drive-In. Thank you very much. It was just that random, and that's the creepiness. Like there was no method to why or what Zodiac was up to. It wasn't like he was hitting everybody in San Francisco. He was hitting, he hit the one person there in San Francisco on the corner of Washington and Cherry. He hit somebody in Vallejo. He hit somebody down in Riverside. Like he was like kind of all over the place, that's scary that you can't find a pattern to this guy's killing, and it's just totally at freaking random. Bundy was just he's just nuts. The more you find out
Bundy is just and so was Dahmer and Gacy and Manson. Now Manson, of course, wasn't the traditional serial killer that we came to know with like your Bundy and your Gacy and your Dahmer.
Manson's the Jim Jones, whatever. The guy who did the Kool-Aid shit.
Yes, Jim Jones. Yeah, Jonestown. So that could be an episode right there.
I think we should do a whole episode.
Let's do an episode.
Real serial killers.
We will thank PC Pierce for the idea. Thanks, PC. Keep it real, Peace. PC Pierce. PC.
Yes, sir.
A couple of super chats came in here. Let's see.
Kyle Sanders, are you talking about Chronicles of Riddick? If that's what you're asking for, the movie Chronicle. No, I have not seen it.
Chronicles of Riddick. No, I think he's talking about the Chronicle, that movie about the kids that is like a found footage film. And
now I know what you're talking about. Yeah, okay, no, I have not seen that. That is a movie I do want to watch.
I've seen it, and I thoroughly enjoy that movie.
For a second there, I was thinking of Chronicles of Riddick. I don't know why.
No. Impracticile for the super chat. Thank you, Impracticile. Much appreciated. Love the shirt, Dave. Thanks, buddy. This shirt is probably about 10 years old, but it's awesome.
Does it glow in the dark or no?
It does not. Not that I know of, anyway. Let's see.
Jack the Ripper's another one too. We got to add him to the list of serial killers.
Yes, and Jack the Ripper. And when you dive into that and you find out that people sometimes think that it might have been somebody who was part of the royal family.
Yeah.
That
gets real interesting.
Woo!
Yeah, we should do.
That's going to be a really fun show. Mohammed Camber says, Dave and Tony,
what do you... loosely because we're not trying to glorify serial killers.
No, of course not. Mohammed Camber says, Dave and Tony, what are your genuine thoughts on these three movies? Candyman, Urban Legend, I Know What You Did Last Summer. Also, what are your views in general towards post-Scream 90s horror films? Well, let's take the first one. Because the last one would be hard. It'd be sort of a lot to get into. What do I think of my genuine thoughts on these three movies? Candyman, haven't seen it in a long time. Have to see it again. Urban Legend.
It's all right.
Yeah. Urban Legend, late 90s horror movie. I remember thinking it was fine, I guess. I don't know.
I like it because Danielle gets it. She smashes in it. She's a goth chick.
Okay. I haven't seen it in years. I Know What You Did Last Summer. Well,
I mean, that's got your girl in it, Love Hewitt.
It's got Jennifer Love Hewitt in it. It was the only
basically Dawson's Creek. Pretty much what that movie was.
I saw I Know What You Did Last Summer in the movie theater back in 1997. And I had a great time. Not because I thought the movie was, tremendously great or anything. It was, it was what it was. But because looking at Jennifer Love Hewitt for an hour and a half was certainly why I did that. And it's so funny. I remember to this day, I went and saw that movie with my buddy Bruce. And for some reason, to this day, 22 years later, I remember Bruce and I went to Costco after the movie. I don't know why I remember that. I don't know why we were at Costco. I guess we were getting something. But it's not like we had, a membership because we were only like 18 and 17. So I don't know. I just remember being at Costco after watching that movie and talking about the movie and how hot the girls were. It's so funny what you remember. But anyway.
Yeah, no, I mean, I Know What You Did Last. I Know What You Did Last Summer. I liked it. I still know it was okay. It was a solid sequel to the original, but the original was great. You got you're in that whole late 90s run with the teen idols there with Freddie Prinze and Ryan Phillippe and Sarah Michelle Gellar. And
it was very 90s, very,
very,
90s.
very, like I said, it's the horror movie of Dawson's Creek. I really think that's what they thought. Like, let's just do like a horror movie version of this instead of setting it on like a little like, Cape area. Let's just set it right near the ocean and
that's right.
All that shit. So
that's right.
And then what was the second part? Our views towards our views in general towards post-Scream 90s horror. So I'm assuming that's anything after Scream. I mean, look, you've had some good ones, I think. I mean, I think we'd all would agree that you go early 2000s, you had Devil's Rejects and House. I like those. You had the Texas Chainsaw remake with Jessica Biel, which was pretty solid. Insidious, which is hard to believe that that's now going on, 10 plus years. Time freaking flies with that, right? That's close to 10 now.
Insidious was 2000 and
if it's not 10, it's closing in on it, right?
I believe it's 2011, but Insidious
so it's closing in on it.
It's marked as a 2010 film because it came out in 2010, but it was released in the United States April 1st, 2011, but it premiered at TIFF, the Toronto International Film Festival here, September 14th, 2010. So it's a 2010 film, but it was released by Blumhouse not until the following April, right? Yeah. So it's almost 10 years.
I think post Scream, I think like in anything, you're gonna have hits, you're gonna have misses. I know I tend to get stuck in the 80s and 70s horror, era, which it's the best. I love it. But I don't discredit the stuff that they're making now and what they've made, since Scream as well, too. I think there's a lot of people doing The Conjuring is another one that's, great. The first Paranormal Activity was really good. Blair Witch is 99. The first Blair Witch. So we've had some really decent, horror films over the last, if you go to 99 and say Blair Witch into today, for the last 20 years, we've had a really good run of, shit, man, look at the run we're about to take off here on next week. We got Child's Play. We got Annabelle, Stranger Things. We've got It. We've
Chapter 2.
Yeah. We've got, Dr. Sleep, although I wouldn't call it horror, and Black Christmas, and we're about to have some great flicks coming here. I think there's been good and good. There's also bad.
There's been horror films, and there's been bad horror films. And when I say okay, I mean good, like fine. I think you will always have more garbage horror films than you will good horror films, but every now and then something special comes along that is really good. But you know what? It all depends on your standards too. And I don't mean that in a pretentious way. I just mean that some people just love horror movies. And it doesn't matter if it's what would be considered good or not. They just love horror movies, and you're entitled to that.
Yep.
You don't care if it makes you think, or if it's creepy, or if it gives you the heebie-jeebies. You just love watching somebody tear some shit up and a couple of boobs and some F-bombs, and away you go. And you're happy, and that's okay. But some people have higher standards in that, and some people maybe want something a little more psychological, or they want to be able to think. Maybe they want something a little more cerebral, or maybe they want a little more mood, or maybe they want something a little more three-dimensional, or maybe everybody has different levels of what gets them, what makes them excited about horror. And, and I tend to fall in the latter, that there's so much of the slasher stuff that it doesn't really do much for me anymore. I'm always down for watching a good slasher movie. It's always fun, but it doesn't do anything for me anymore, really. I've become so desensitized to it now that I much prefer to be challenged. So when a movie like Hereditary comes along, or a movie like, way back in the day when I saw The Others with Nicole, Kidman in the theater, I remember thinking, wow, what a cool, it was really good movie. Insidious or The Conjuring, where it kind of walks that line where it's trying to entertain you, but it understands that, hey, you know what, we have an opportunity here to be a little more mature and a little more psychological. That's where I am now, sort of, with horror. When it comes to just the if I'm going to watch a slasher, I tend to watch the old school shit because I'm familiar with it and I can revel in the nostalgia. But I tend not to watch modern slashers because they just don't do much for me anymore, unless there's an angle to it that can hook me somehow. So
no, I get what you're saying. I try to with some of the Netflix ones that come on there direct to Netflix. And it's like, I'll watch maybe like 15, 20 minutes of it. And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm checked out. I'm not, but I love horror. Horror is the top genre of movies that I watch.
Yeah. Same here.
You know, and I agree with that. You know, there was just only a handful of movies like Hereditary or a movie like Get Out or It Follows, or, you know, I liked A Quiet Place. I know you have different feelings on it, but
I do.
you know, almost said Urban Legends, The Conjuring, you know, I mean, so yeah, there's been I'm with you on that. There's nothing short of someone creating a new character for the slasher genre that we have not seen before. Because that's really what the slasher genre needs right now. The only thing we got is the OGs, you know, whether it's Freddy, Jason, Michael, Ghostface, you know.
And nothing is scarier. Like, I mean, it's psychological. Like, it doesn't matter if you're a fan of slashers or not. The scariest things, you know, the reason why these psychological horror films tend to do well and are revered is because they can tap into everybody on a certain level. Blood, guts, and gore is always fun to watch, and maybe it's scary to think about a guy in the woods and there's the chainsaw, and yeah, of course. But at the end of the day, when you can tap into the psyche of people and you can, you know, it's more universal that way, because we're all going to our own dark places. You know, you've heard me talk about that ad nauseum. So I tend to, as I've gotten older, I've matured. I'm a 40-year-old man now. So as I've gotten older, my taste for horror has matured as well. And it's not that I don't enjoy a good slasher movie every now and then, but the modern slasher films just seem a little rudimentary to me now, and a little more been there, done that. If I'm going to watch a slasher, I'll pop in Friday the 13th Part 4, you know, because it has the nostalgia thing too, which gets me into it. And but horror today for me, I'd rather watch a movie that has a little more meat on the bone. So let's see here. Let's go down the list. I thought there was a super chat that came in. I thought there was. Aaron Keller. Thank you, Aaron. Where did you guys get your Elm Street signs link? Well, mine was sent to me by a viewer, so I'm not sure where he got it, to be honest with you.
That's a real street sign. I'll leave it at that. There
you go. And that is a real street sign.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, this could be. It's made of like, you know, metal. Yeah. So you could pop that up on a pole. But it is no, it's a prop. And it was sent to me by a viewer, so I'm not sure exactly where he got that. I would just, you know, Google Elm Street sign prop or something like that. I'm sure something will pop up.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Somebody we haven't had. Here we go. Fast Forwards 289 says, "Hey, Dave, do you think they'll ever do a remake of Friday the 13th with Pamela Voorhees as the killer again?" Probably not.
No.
But if you watch Tony and I's, second or third episode of Two Dudes and Some Bullshit, we dive deep into that. So check out that episode, because I actually I would entertain that idea to get the series back on track. And Tony and I have some really good ideas to rebooting Friday the 13th. So you may want to check out that episode.
Definitely check that out. Yeah, definitely check that out.
Yeah. All right. You pick one.
Ryan McHenry, what is your favorite quote from a horror movie? Oh, man.
My favorite quote from a horror movie?
Does Jaws count as a horror film or no?
I've never classified it as a...
Yeah,
it kind of
need a bigger boat.
That's a great line. That's a great line. My favorite line in a horror movie...
But if we're gonna go like slasher,
traditional horror,
traditional,
I don't know. That's a good question.
God, I mean, because then you think of Nightmare, and you know, there's great lines in Nightmare on Elm Street. There's great lines in the original Halloween. that Pleasant says, and even Jamie Lee, and even PJ Souls, man. See anything you like? You know, I mean,
that's right. That's right.
Mean, you know, totally. I mean, there's so many.
See anything you like?
There's so many iconic lines that it's to say your favorite one. I don't know. That's hard to narrow it down to one. Good question, though.
I mean, I don't know. I've always liked.
Have you checked the children? That's a great line.
Oh,
too.
Have you checked the children is great. Yeah. Have you checked? And that is, and again, that's another movie that utilizes
based on the urban legend
of the man upstairs and the babysitter. Now, Black Christmas utilized that urban legend as well. They switched it out from being a babysitter, but the general foundation of the urban legend is part of the identity of that movie. And that's why it would be like taking that out of When a Stranger Calls. You know, it's like, what? Like, could you do, you know?
Well, then you think of movies like Scream. You know, if I'm a suspect, you're a suspect. You know, I mean, my God, you know, what's your favorite scary movie? I mean, how many lines in Scream, you know, the first Scream, anyways, that, you know, I see people throwing out all the time. You know, I mean, movies don't, you know, killers. Movies make killers more creative. You know, that was a classic line too. So
it was, good stuff. Super chat from Anthony T. Thank you, Anthony. Much appreciated. Why did you not like The Quiet Place? Oh, A Quiet Place, you mean? You're probably talking about me. Well, I think the concept for A Quiet Place is great. And I think one of the reasons why it was very well received at the box office from watching it, my estimation is that the box office, the in-theater experience of watching a movie like that would be very interesting because there's very little dialogue for most of the movie. So, you know, it's kind of a neat experience. But I had issues with the characters and their motivations, which made no fucking sense to me because it seemed like the writing was getting the characters to do something that characters would just not do in that kind of a situation in order to justify keeping the narrative going. And I'll give you an example. If you were in that kind of a situation, and at the very beginning of the movie, you have... Now, keep in mind, the premise here is you cannot make a noise. Now, you can make minor noises. Maybe you can, you know, I don't know, clear your throat or, you know, whatever the case is. But generally speaking here, we're talking about you cannot make any noise. Your life depends on being quiet. So if you have a 4 or 5 year old kid who is, you know, you're walking along this bridge, it made no sense to me to have your son at the back of the line. You would want to be watching him because he's little. He's only, 4 or 5, whatever the hell he was. Yeah. He's at the back, way back there, and you're walking along. Why wasn't he in the father's arms? Why wasn't the mother the father at the lead, the mother at the back, and the 2 kids in the middle? Just seemed a little weird for me. And then when, of course, what happened to the boy, it was like, oh, right, of course. Or maybe the father was carrying I don't know. Anyway, there something bothered me about that. The other thing that bothered me was the woman becomes pregnant. Now, the woman was not pregnant prior to this apocalypse happening because the dates they would throw up on screen about how far along she was did not match the dates. There was a time discrepancy. I forget what it was, but she clearly got pregnant after all this had happened. When your life is dependent on being quiet, it is absolutely and unequivocally irresponsible to bring a baby into the picture. And the only reason why I believe the writers did that was because of that exact thing. It's, we add drama and suspense and, she's pregnant. But why the fuck would you? I'm not buying it. I just don't buy it. I just did not buy that was a decision that would be... If you're going to do that, why wouldn't you write it so she's 6 weeks pregnant? She's not showing yet, but she's 6 weeks pregnant and then shit hits the fan. So she's already pregnant, so there's nothing she could do about it. Then it's a matter of circumstance and not a matter of ignorance and incompetence, right? Then it becomes a matter of circumstance and not incompetence. And I had a hard time believing that this family, who appeared to be so competent in other areas, were so incompetent by having sex and, getting her pregnant. It's like, why are you doing that? And then somebody said to me, well, they're trying to repopulate the world. They're not trying to repopulate the world. You can look across the fucking lake or whatever it is, and you can see that there are other people that have survived. You can see the lights turning on and the fires, and they're not the only people on the face of the planet. So I found that I loved the concept, but the decisions that these characters kept making, I didn't buy. Another one was when Emily Blunt's character is in the basement and the water is teeming into the basement. And she's there like, I'm thinking, no way. No way would I buy that you would not realize that the water was flooded until it was up to your knees. That's when you wake up. As soon as that water began teeming in, you'd be like, what the fuck is that? There's other things as well that I could point to, but those were the three off the top of my head that I had a hard time buying into especially the baby one. The baby was the one that threw me off because it was so, to me now, I'm just talking about me, it was so obvious that it was a writing decision that was made just to give the movie some stakes. Because the whole time she's pregnant, you're thinking, oh, fuck, how is she going to have a baby when the baby's going to cry? And then when the baby's born, it's the quietest fucking baby of all time. You know what I mean? And it's like, I just had trouble. The concept was great. The cinematography was great. The acting was fine. But the decisions that the writers had these characters do, I just was not buying what they were selling, and it just threw me out. So I don't think it's a dreadful movie or anything like that. I'd watch it again if I had to, but it shocked me that it was one of the highest, most critically acclaimed movies of the year. I thought, are you kidding me? Oh, okay, all right. It just didn't work for me, and that's me.
There you go. Super chat from Ethan LeBlanc. Hey guys, hope all is well. What are y'all's favorite Star Wars lightsaber duels and why? You want to start?
Yeah, Empire Strikes Back.
Okay.
I mean,
I was like, wait, which duel? I mean, oh yeah, the duel on Hoth.
Yes. No, the duel on Bespin.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Like,
Bespin, not Hoth. Bespin. Yeah. I know what you meant. Yeah, you meant Bespin.
Yeah.
No, that would be my favorite. Look, if you're talking about a spectacle to watch, then it would probably be Obi-Wan and Anakin at the end of Revenge of the Sith.
That's
if you're talking
poetry in motion.
But it's so poetry in motion. It's so choreographed that I have a hard time. It doesn't look organic. It looks like a dance. And I understand that part of that was intentional, but it was so choreographed that what is so beautiful almost gets to the point where I'm like, I just don't believe that they're actually fighting. It just looks fake. Almost like it looks like they're okay. You go here, I go there. You go. Like it's almost too choreographed. But the spectacle is amazing. But my favorite lightsaber duel is Bespin Empire, when Luke rises in that chamber and Vader is back. I'm getting goosebumps right now. And Vader is backlit and the lights turn on and you hear him just say, "The Force is with you, young Skywalker." Dramatic pause. But you are not a Jedi yet. Oh, man, it's just, and he walks up there and just the stakes and what it all means and the cinematography. And just that classic look of their backlit, and it's just the two, silhouettes, and then everything that transpires after that, right down to the "I am your father," and I think it's the greatest lightsaber duel out of all the films. And I gotta say though, in The Force Awakens, the idea of having it take place in the forest, which wasn't a real forest, by the way, it was a huge set,
soundstage,
yeah, it was. But the idea of having that and the red glow against the snow and the blue glow against the snow and the snow falling, beautiful. Looks beautiful. Absolutely stunning. So, I'd go Empire for me. Tony?
Yeah, same reasons on the Anakin and Obi-Wan. It's poetry in motion. It's beautifully choreographed. It's great to watch. It's everything that you as a Star Wars geek, want. I mean, you watch the behind the scenes on that too. And McGregor and Hayden, man, those two, man, they worked hard on that. I mean, and you know, you got to give credit where credit is due, but mainly because I thought what Williams did in the score was so beautifully done in Return of the Jedi, on the new Death Star. And, you know, you have that epic shot of Luke and Vader going across the screen with the Williams score playing, and they're perfectly, that is the execution of a silhouette photograph, with the only seeing the lightsabers and seeing just the shape of Luke's body and Vader's body. Yeah. And just like you getting goosebumps on Empire, just thinking about that right now, thinking about the Williams score playing, same thing. It just gives you the goosebumps, you know, where, you know, Vader's taunting him and then he's just finally, Luke's just like, no, fuck this shit. And he comes out of hiding and he's like, we're going to town, motherfucker. Yeah.
He's like, if you will not turn to the dark, or whatever he says, perhaps she will. Charge! Oh yeah, no, it was good. It was good, and of course, I mean, you know, you got to give, you know, a shout out to the Phantom Menace and Darth Maul.
Darth Maul.
I mean, it was cool because he was a cool character, and the double-sided lightsaber. Yeah. Everybody was like, what the fuck? You know, too bad the movie wasn't better, but yeah, that
is the unfortunate thing, you know, because the Darth Maul fight scene with Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan is a really good fight scene. Unfortunately, it's just around a shitty movie.
Yeah, exactly. PC Pierce, super chat. Thanks. PC says, Dave, if you had to give up one of these terms, which would you keep? Which would you keep? Shit show or pop culture consciousness? I would probably the easiest one to give up actually would probably be shit show, because I can say dog shit, I can say fucking full of shit. You know what I mean? Pop culture consciousness is a term that I'm not going to say I coined it, but it's such a perfect term to illustrate what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? And I mean, I could always say the pop culture zeitgeist, or, you know, I could use, you know, other terms, but pop culture consciousness would probably be a tougher one to give up. So I'd probably keep that one over shit show, but fuck it. I'm keeping both, baby.
I like Anthony T's question here.
Super chat. Thanks, Anthony.
Yeah, I like that. Kill, marry, or fuck. Laurie Strode, Sidney Prescott, Julie James, Jennifer Love from I Know What You Did Last Summer. So
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
So you have to kill one of them, you have to marry one of them, and you get to fuck one of them. So who would you be? That's okay. First of all, kill Laurie Strode. That bitch needs to fucking die. Okay, she just needs to go. I'd probably marry Sidney Prescott. Sydney's just the kind of girl you'd want to marry, you know. And yeah, Jen Love, Julie James, yeah, that'd be a fun little 2-3 week fling, and I'd get it in, get it out. But Sydney, I'd probably want to marry. Yeah, I like Nev. I like Nev too when Nev cut her hair short.
I would probably say the same thing.
Yeah, that's shocking. I thought you'd marry Jen Love. I really, but basing it on the characters, yeah, okay.
Yeah, we're talking about the characters. Then, I'd probably say the same thing. I don't know. It's not something I've ever thought about.
Because Julie James, I got to be honest with you, her character, and that she's hot. That's what I'm saying. She'd be fun. She'd be fun for a little bit, but I just don't think I'd last very long with her.
Sidney Prescott seems a little more responsible.
Yeah, right? Sydney just seems like that's the kind of woman you can share a life with.
There you go.
Oh man. Oh, this was a good question here. From Movie Chat and More. Scream or Halloween 2018? I'm going with Scream. The original Scream, I'm assuming that's what you're asking.
The original Scream or Halloween 2018? Oh, the original Scream.
Yeah.
For me, yeah.
There you go.
Let's see here. Grave Warmer. Strangest thing has been happening recently. I've been seeing my birthday and month 226 everywhere multiple times a day randomly. It's almost unreal. Have you ever experienced something similar? I think we all have at one point in our lives begun to notice patterns like that. Once you notice it twice, you'll tend to start to notice it a bit more. Whether it actually means something or not, I mean, we don't have any evidence that it actually means something, but it's always fun when those things happen. But there's a lot of times, you know, we also have to remember in life that as much as patterns like that happen, there's a lot of patterns that happen that we don't draw any attention to because there's no significance to us. right? So you just said right there, the most important part of your thing was the strangest thing has been happening recently. I've been seeing my birthday and month 226 everywhere multiple times a day randomly. It's almost unreal. Now, to be fair, you've been seeing it a lot, so that is a little weird. But how many times a day do we see the number 3 in a day? Now, you might think, oh, I never see it. No, you might actually see it quite a bit, but you don't register it because it doesn't necessarily mean anything to you, right? So we always have to remember that sometimes we see a lot of patterns, whether it's on license plates or on a store or on our watch or online or wherever it is, but it doesn't register to us as anything significant because there's nothing significant for us, so it just goes into our subconscious. Whereas 226, which I imagine that is February 26th, if I saw 524, which is May 24th, a few times a day recently, it would mean something to me. But if I saw 647 a few times a day throughout it might, depending on how often it was, but it might not because it doesn't mean much. So got to keep that in mind. But and everybody catches the clock at 11:11. Who hasn't caught the clock at 11:11, right? But no, that's interesting. Maybe it'll be a good luck year for you, Grave. Maybe. You never know.
Rich homie Kadweezy. I know I said that wrong. 32.
Rich homie KD Weezy.
Question. What happened to Michael Myers' parents from the original franchise, starting with 78, from the 70s and in the 80s? Because, that is true. They're just kind of like a footnote at the beginning of the film, and they are never to be heard of again.
Well, actually, in Halloween 2, the nurse tells Dr. Loomis that the parents died. When they're in the back of the marshal's car and Nurse Chambers is...
that's right.
Yes.
I fucking forgot. I hadn't seen Halloween 2 in so long.
Yeah, she's talking to Loomis explaining that Laurie is actually Myers' sister and blah, blah, blah. And in that bit of exposition, you can hear her say that Laurie was adopted by the such and such 2 years after they died, but whatever the case is. Anyway, it's a whole thing. She was the parents were killed. I don't believe it says why the parents were killed, how the parents were killed. But nonetheless, they died, presumably maybe in a car accident or something to that effect. So that's your answer there, folks.
But it's interesting that in the original film, they're never heard of again either. You know what I mean? They're gone. You know, they had that opening scene and you would think that maybe that they should have been a part of that original film somewhere.
Well, here's why. Here's the thing is that Laurie wasn't supposed... Yeah, I agree with everything you've said.
That's right.
But the reason why Michael's parents were completely insignificant in the original film is because Laurie was not Michael Myers' sister.
Right.
When John Carpenter made that movie, at no point in any time was he ever thinking that Laurie Strode is Michael Myers' sister. So it was irrelevant to why is she adopted by this? No, she really was Laurie Strode, and that man that came out and said, "Don't forget to drop the key off at the Myers house." I won't. They're coming by. That was really her father. That was her father. It wasn't her adopted father. That was her father. It wasn't until Halloween 2 that they had to figure out what the fuck are we gonna do here because we've extended this. I guess we have to create a motive now. And Carpenter was like, "All right, it's his sister." And he spun this. Granted, he did a pretty good job of trying to make sense of it. I don't think it's not. I don't think it's needed because the first film is a complete thing. But that's why I've had a lot of people actually say, but in the first movie they never explained where his parents were either because it wasn't his sister.
But in hindsight, you almost could have gotten away with one scene. When Michael escapes, that maybe there is an interaction between Loomis and Michael's parents, Loomis letting them know, hey, he's escaped. You know what I mean?
You could have done that.
That could have been an interesting scene.
You could have done that
as you're getting, and how would they have reacted? Maybe they didn't care. Maybe it's look, not my problem. That's your guy's problem.
Because he's 21 years old, so he belongs to the state now. I mean,
exactly. That would have been an interesting. I almost wish if Carpenter would have done that in the original one scene with Loomis and Michael's parents, just saying, "Hey, he's escaped, and we're looking for him."
You could have done that. I suspect the reason why Loomis didn't do it was, why Carpenter didn't do it was because he didn't want to have any scenes that could potentially add any backstory. You know, you see his parents and now you understand his parents in the first movie are an enigma as well, essentially.
Much,
like why are, what's going, and he just wanted to keep everything about Michael. He didn't want to show his parents again. He did everything sort of a mystery, which is interesting. But yeah, no, that's why. I've had people, say that, like, well, how come they didn't factor in that his parents? How come they mentioned his parents again? Because Laurie was. A lot of people have to remember that. I know that because of part 2, it is, but they were not made like. Right. I know it's hard because when you watch part 2 and the subsequent sequels and you watch part 1, you're looking for things to make sense of that help the sequels. The problem is there isn't anything because there never was supposed to be a sequel. So that's why there are certain things in part 1 in John Carpenter's original that might make you go, well, that's kind of weird because that doesn't make sense of what they said. Yeah, because it was never intended to be that way. So you guys, have to keep that in mind as well. But anyway, great question though. Great questions tonight, guys. You guys are rocking it tonight. Let's see here. Adam Carl Green says, guys, do we get a different Halloween 2 if it's released before Friday the 13th? Do we get it? Oh, a different Halloween 2. I see what you're saying.
Like a different Halloween if it was released after Friday the 13th.
Oh, yes. Do we get a different Halloween 2 if it was released before Friday the 13th? Yes, because Halloween 2 was released in 81. Friday the 13th was 1980. I don't know.
I mean, they're two different movies because Halloween 2 is a direct sequel to the original.
But there is no denying that Halloween 2's step up in it's so funny because it's so dated now, but its step up in blood and gore from its predecessor
because of Friday
is because of Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
So would a sequel to Halloween 2 have even happened if it wasn't for Friday the 13th? I don't know. It's hard to say. That's a good question. I question whether there even would have been a sequel at all. I mean, there's no doubt that Halloween was extraordinarily successful, but if it wasn't for Friday the 13th also being successful, I don't know.
You got to remember too, back then in 78, sequels wasn't really a thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, there were sequels, but it wasn't
an in-demand thing like now. You almost expect a sequel to come.
Right, exactly. Yeah, no, I agree. Let's see here. Jacqueline McEwen says, yeah, because Halloween 2 had to up the ante with the gore and violence because of Friday the 13th coming along. That's true. That is a known thing. Yeah, so but that doesn't necessarily mean that it wouldn't have upped something as often they do in sequels. But I agree. It's a safe bet to assume that something might have been different.
True.
Let's see.
I'm trying to go up to make sure that
we didn't miss any super chats.
We didn't miss any super chat, and we didn't miss any questions.
I don't think we missed any super chats. We seem to be
Dr. Loopy, what is the most consistent horror genre in terms of quality?
The horror genre.
I mean, I'm guessing you're going by slasher, supernatural.
Well,
you're breaking it by categories. Is that what I'm assuming?
Do you know what I would say? I would probably, you know what? I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I would say probably slasher.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say that is that not every slasher film you're going to like, right? But there are people out there that don't like when the slasher genre was building in the early 1980s, and you had Friday the 13th, and you had Elm Street, and you had other minor ones in there as well. The slasher movie has always been a B horror movie. It always has been. Yep. Now in the 80s, those movies were mainstream because horror, that's what a horror movie was. But today, if Friday the 13th was released today, on looking the way that it did then. It's a B horror. It's always been a B horror movie. It's always been an independent B sort of genre. And they've been pretty consistent with that. Even the shit you see on, Netflix, it looks like, it's just that because we've become so polished today, and because horror movies have become so polished today, that when you watch a slasher movie that has the B independent vibe to it, it really stands out to you because you're like, oh, this looks like shit. This is shit. Because you're so used to a polished Friday the 13th from 2009, or a polished Texas Chainsaw from 2003 or 4, or a polished, even though you may not have liked Elm Street from 2010, it was polished. Right? In terms of the production value. And slasher movies were never polished films. They were very B-movie. I'm not saying they weren't good. I'm just saying they had a independent sort of gritty kind of vibe to them. And so I think the slasher genre, for the most part, has been pretty consistent like that. That doesn't mean they, dish out good slasher movies a lot, but I think in terms of their aesthetic and look, they've always been sort of in that ballpark. I mean, you watch the first, Friday the 13th, and even though we like the movie, look at it. I mean, it's a B horror movie.
I honestly think that if you want to really get the slasher genre back on track, I understand it's a different generation, but I think. All right, here's the thing. What's the fucking worst that can happen, right? When I'm about to say here, go back to the roots of like how they made movies, and I don't mean made them, as far as film, but don't make them so polished.
Yeah,
you don't have to make the slasher genre so polished. I mean, look again. What's it gonna fucking hurt? You know what I mean? Because people are not signing up for the polish, so. Maybe go back. I'm not saying shoot 16 or 35 or, I'm not saying do film because I get it. Film is expensive, but it doesn't mean you have to polish it up. When you look at like Dave's videos, now when I talk Dave's videos, I'm talking about his fan films. When you watch him, when I say they're not polished, but there's an artistic craft to it. There's a sense of realism to it. It's the same thing with my photographs. I had someone yesterday on the Michael picture that I posted yesterday where I have the guy holding the mask. The mask, right? Someone commented, said, oh, dude, you should have had blood coming out and stuff off like down the mask and stuff. And I said, you know what? That's a cheap trick. Had I done that, it would have taken away from the simplicity of the photograph of what I was trying. Like, it's just Michael and he's just there and that's it. You don't need blood. You don't need the knife. You just see the mask and that is it. You even see just half of Michael. You don't even see his feet. And
that's right.
I did that purposely because all the time, less is more. So in saying that, horror films, they may need to get back to their roots and may need to not make movies so polished. Not saying shoot film, and they might. I mean, what the fuck? It can't hurt, right?
Well, because a lot of horror is, when you make a horror movie that has a higher production value to it, and what they do in post as well, where they color correct it. There's this greenish or bluish or orangey hue over the entire picture, or it looks too Hollywood. It looks too polished, and a big part of the horror genre. Horror has always been, like if you watch a black and white film, something like All About Eve or Touch of Evil, that is a little more polished. It's not a horror movie. But then you watch horror movies from the 40s and the 50s. They've always been the least polished out of all the genres. They've always been the most gritty and the most, because it's creating a sense of atmosphere and weird mood. Yes, it's true though, right? So when you watch something like Hereditary, that is, it's a professional film, but it's not quite as polished.
Right.
It's a little more gritty or
it's not cleanly edited either. That's what I really like about that.
You create a sense of an overall sort of visual uneasiness to your picture. And, like I said, I did a Saturday movie night last night watching the first Friday the 13th. And although that is a slasher movie, there's a psychological component to that film, which is nice. It's not knowing who the killer is. It's being in the dark during, a thunderstorm and you hear, mommy, and you realize, my God, it's this 55-year-old, woman. There's this whole thing about it. Of course, it was shot at $500,000. It looks like that because they weren't intending it to. I mean, if they could have polished it up, they probably would have. So there's certainly you have to keep that in mind. But there's something about the horror genre that when things are grittier and more unpolished, and you really focus in on that mood and that sort of it works for the genre. You don't want something. I don't want my horror movie to look as polished as an Avengers film.
Right.
That's not. I don't want that. I don't want the color palette and the color, correcting that they do, and the editing and the cuts to look like it's as polished as I'm watching like Die Hard or something. I don't, have it grittier and more. I say
realistic looking.
I say this loosely. Don't take it literally, but more amateur feeling to it, to the overall sort of grittiness of it, because it creates a sense of realism.
And that's why,
and that's important.
I know people jumped all over Rob Zombie, but if you watch his 3 from Hell teaser trailer, it does look amateurish. He did that on purpose. He did that on purpose. People think that he didn't know. No, he did that shit on purpose. And I think that's the beauty part. Even though I'm not the biggest zombie movie fan, and I've said that before, I love his music. Not crazy, but I like a few of his movies. He totally fucking did that on purpose. Because I think he might be even doing that with this film, that he's taking it back. We're not going to polish this up. We're going to get back to the gritty, grime of what a horror movie should be like. And like you said, horror movies should not be looking at like we're watching the Avengers film. And that's why I like what I love about the first Conjuring. We don't see Bathsheba until about almost halfway, if not 45 minutes into the film. That's what makes that scene there with the 2 kids in the dark room and she's staring at the corner so powerful, because we don't see it. That actress is selling the shit out of it. And it's so powerful. That's why I say less is always more. Yeah, you can throw blood into a scene or into a photograph. And sure, if I wanted to put blood down the Myers mask, it would make the photograph fine. But sometimes you don't need to go there with it. Sometimes you can just, the simplicity of it, of the narrative that you're trying to tell in your movie or in your photograph, whatever it is, sometimes a simple approach is the best approach because it makes the most impact.
I could not agree more. And yes, I agree. And I think, it's funny. I think too, when I watch the older slasher movies, whether it's the Friday the 13th series or Elm Street or whatever it is, but those movies came out at a time when that's just what horror was. It was B movie. But I would much rather watch those older films, yes, for nostalgic reasons. But there's a sense of grittiness to them that I think that's where that genre lives. Now, when you talk about psychological horror, obviously you can make a psychological horror film a bit more polished. Sure, you can. I mean, you can look at, Shutter Island, you can look at Seven, you can look at, all these, subgenres that can lend itself to being a little more polished. But when you're talking about the slasher horror genre, I think going sort of more grittier is much more beneficial, because there's far too much. It's too pristine. It's too nice to look at, and horror should make me feel uncomfortable and uneasy, and I don't need bright colors or anything like that. So anyway, but we could talk about that for forever. Let's see here.
0OM, what's your favorite zombie tune? I like his studio version, not his live, because the live version he does like the Ramones, but his studio version of the Ramones cover, Blitzkrieg Bop. That's really good. Then you can get into the White Zombie stuff that he did, like what is it, Thunder Kiss 69, More Human. I think he did that with White Zombie as well too. Dragula, obviously Dragula is my running song. It's a song that I run to all the time, or I just jam out to in my car all the time. That gets me amped up. I'm Your Boogeyman is really good. I mean, to just pick one. Do you listen to Rob Zombie's music or no?
I don't. No.
Living Dead Girl is another one. I mean, it's because I'm a big fan of his music to narrow it down to one. It's just hard to do. I think that's with any artist, that if you like their music, it's so hard to pick to one, you know. But those are a couple that I do listen to on the heavier rotation.
Cool. Electric Drive-In says, anyone see Summer of 84? Wondering if I should rent it. I have seen Summer of 84. That's
a good movie.
It's a good movie. Like that's also a Canadian movie, for those of you that don't know. And that was shot in Vancouver, I believe. And I thought it was all right. I thought it was pretty good. I thought some of the acting I thought was a little... I didn't feel the chemistry between the characters, because it's clearly Stranger Things meets horror. I mean, this is why they're doing this film. There's no doubt about it. The chemistry between the kids in Stranger Things is much stronger. You buy into that, that these people are really friends. In Summer of 84, not quite as strong, but you buy it enough that you can get through the movie. I don't say that movie's bad, or that, it's like, oh my God, there's no chemistry at all. It's just because you're coming from Stranger Things, you go over to Summer of 84, you're like, oh, okay, the chemistry's not quite as there, but okay, sure. Maybe they're just a bunch of different kids, and okay. I thought it was all right. I thought it was pretty good. I'd love to get it, actually. I don't have it in my collection, so I'd love to get it. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, it was a surprise, fun, like a Stranger Things horror movie type vibe to it, like you said. It was good.
Yep.
Thoughts on The Lost Boys from Tommy Gibson. Fucking classic, man.
Classic. I haven't seen it in a long time.
I'm sure that's going to be a video we'll discuss one day.
Yeah. I'd be down for that. I got to watch it again because, like I said, it's been years since I've seen it, so I'd have to brush up on
Michael.
That's right. Michael. Well, I gotta brush. You know what movie we should do too is I wouldn't mind doing Stand By Me. Yeah, that would be a good one to do too. Or maybe we do like a coming of age.
Yeah, that'd be a fun night.
Where we talk about like Goonies, Stand By Me. That might be kind of fun to do.
I don't shut up. I grow up.
And when I look at you, I throw up.
See you later. Not if I see you first.
That's right. It's such a good movie.
It is.
Hashtag rest in peace, River Phoenix.
Absolutely.
Let's see here. What do we got?
Movie chat and more. Friday the 13th Part 6 has the best horror soundtrack. Yeah, that is a good soundtrack. 6 is a really good soundtrack. Alex Cooper did some good tracks.
Man behind the mask.
Yeah.
That was good stuff. Let's see here.
Summer Johnson just tuned in. Tony's outfit makes me want a shotgun a beer. Oh, hell yeah.
Might as well. Do it up.
Flash a couple together and stone cold the shit out of that.
That'd be funny. Let's see here. Nick says, Dave, have you seen all of Carpenter's flicks that they just restored and brought to 4K? If yes, what are your thoughts of them? Kubrick's next in line, 2001 is out. The Shining is coming in October. I have not. I can't say I've seen all of Carpenter's movies. I've seen most of them. But
I've seen most, but not all.
I've not seen the restored, remastered versions because I'm not somebody that generally feels I need to have 900 copies of there's a few select movies or series that I would buy the latest of. I would probably I have Halloween 1978 on 4K, but and I have the series on Blu-ray. But I wouldn't necessarily feel like now I got to buy the series on 4K. Now I'm going to have to buy the series on 8K when that comes out. Oh, now I got to buy this. Like, no. I don't need, I'm fine. There's only so many Ks you can go until you just destroy the visual aesthetic of the fucking movie. So,
I still watch a lot of my shit on VHS, man. I love it.
Same here.
I do. I love watching. I love popping in that VHS because there's just something about, it's like listening to my vinyl. You know what I mean? There's something about listening to vinyl that, yes, I do listen to shit digitally. I mean, of course, but there's just something about popping a record on a turntable, putting that needle on. It's the same thing about putting a VHS tape into your recorder and pressing play.
That's it. Yep. I agree. Let's see here.
Thoughts on James Galaxola. I can't say that name, dude. Thoughts on the Austin Powers film. Crap. Your thing just went out of my thing. Thoughts on the Austin Powers film, if you've seen them. I've only seen the first one, and I thought it was good. I didn't see the rest of them.
I've seen Austin Powers 1. I've seen The Spy Who Shagged Me, but I have not seen Gold.
I've seen clips on YouTube of, with the mini-me's and stuff like that. Look, but yeah,
Mike Myers is hilarious.
He's a legend. Yeah. I mean, he's great.
He is. Yeah. He's born here in Toronto too, I think. Or was he born? Yeah, he was. He's born in Scarborough, which is like our most.
You guys breed them well up there in Canada.
We do. We breed some good Canadians. We do. And then every now and then we breed one like Bieber. But whatever. Let's see here.
Frank Rikers, $5 super chat. Dave and Thanks, Tony, Frank. If you were to direct a horror movie, would you keep it gritty or digital? Depends on the budget, really. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, and it depends on whether it's a movie that, like I said, I mean, it depends on if I'm doing a psychological thriller like Seven or, Shutter Island, that doesn't necessarily have to be. I mean, you can shoot digitally and still keep the movie ominous and atmospheric and moody and, absolutely. But if I was shooting a low budget horror movie, like if I was given, $2.5 million or something like that, and Blumhouse said to me, we want you to make a movie like Black Christmas, like the original Black Christmas, but we want to make you, modern. I would be like, well, yes, I would go gritty. I might even recommend, let's shoot this on 16. Right. Or if you don't want to shoot on 16, maybe 35. Obviously, that's much more expensive to shoot on film, but I would recommend. It doesn't hurt to recommend. And because there's some movies that are smaller in scale. If the movie is smaller in scale, like a Black Christmas or a Hush, or something like that, or even a Halloween, when it's smaller in scale, I really like to utilize every tool I can to help something feel a little more gritty and there's something there, you know what I mean? If it's a little more bigger and there's more going on, like a Shutter Island or a Seven or something that just feels bigger, maybe you could shoot that, digitally and just utilize maybe like in Seven, obviously it's raining a lot, right? You know what I mean? So every time they go outside, it's raining, so it's cloudy.
Same thing with The Crow.
Yeah, exactly. And Shutter Island, you're on an island where there's a storm that, comes in. So you don't necessarily have to go gritty. You let the elements and the atmosphere sort of speak for themselves. But shooting something smaller scale, like a, original Halloween or Hush or something. Yeah, I'd love to go gritty because it just, there's something about it that's just really cool.
Yeah, I agree. It just, again, depends on your budget and what you got to work with, and Absolutely. Then you're off and running. David Green, are you guys a fan of the new Child's Play theme? I haven't warmed up to it yet, though. It doesn't mean I don't like it. Just got to give it a little, I want to give it some time, and let me kind of, sit with it for a little bit.
Yeah, I heard it once a few months ago, I guess, when the guy was playing it. I thought it was fine. I didn't think, oh my God, that's awful.
Right.
But I just I'll have to hear it in the context of the movie.
That's the thing, with the movie coming out next week, and when you see it, in context, it's like, that's when you can really start to go, okay, yeah, this works, or no, I'm not really feeling it.
Yeah, exactly. Super chat from Frank Riker follows up. Thanks, Frank. What death scene in a movie made you guys cringe? You mean cringe? Like you mean cringe in terms of in a bad way?
Right. Or like, oh my God, this is hard to watch.
Yeah, like because it's so, my God, that was so poorly done, that's hard to watch. I'm not sure what you mean.
Or like hard to watch in the sense of like, this is like disturbing, like, like this is a very disturbing death scene. Right. If you're going with cringe and like it's so bad, geez, man, just pull up it. I mean, my God, Sleepaway Camp from last week where we talked about there is death scene there.
There's an early 80s horror movie, and I talked about this on my channel. It's one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. It is a poor man's. It's even poorer than Sleepaway Camp. Like, you know how I said Sleepaway Camp is essentially a poor man's Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
Not that Friday the 13th was anything, big and bad, but I just mean, yeah, you know what I'm saying, right? Well, this movie is like a poor man's, like even poor. Like this is just poor. It's like a Friday the 13th. It's called Don't Go Into the Woods. And it's from the early 80s, and it's just atrocious. And I'm pretty sure there's a scene in there, if I'm not mistaken, where somebody gets their arm cut off by this weird, like, Neanderthal kind of guy who's in the woods, who's like, whatever it is, and he gets his arm chopped off. and you can see his arm like in his shirt, and you can see like this little hose of blood like squirting blood out, and he's like and the blood is like spewing all over the place, but you can see it's so fake, you can actually see it, like see how it's done. And that was just fucking awful. That was just awful. So that's the first thing that popped into my head.
Cool.
Tommy Gibbon, super chat. Thank you, Tommy. I know Dave hasn't seen it, but if Dave hasn't seen it, but if have by now, what's your guys' thoughts on the Warriors 1979? Tommy, I still have not seen the Warriors.
I haven't seen it yet either.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't.
Good question, though.
I know it's a cult classic to a lot of people.
Yep.
But I have yet to see it. Michelle Larsh says, hey, Dave, I'm doing a road trip to Toronto soon for the, how do I pronounce that? The Roxadou? Radu. Yeah, that sounds like that's French. I'm awful on French.
Oh, oui, oui.
Festival. What hotels do you recommend? I think Michelle is in Canada. I think she's in Ottawa or in Montreal, somewhere around there. What hotels do I recommend? Well, that all depends on your budget. I mean, you could stay at Toronto's got a lot of 5-star hotels like the St. Regis or the Ritz-Carlton or Shangri-La.
But do they have a Trump Plaza?
They did have a Trump. They did. No, they actually did. Did they really? Yeah, it's a 65-story skyscraper right downtown. It's this green, sort of thin kind of building, and it was Trump Tower from 2012 to 2016 or 17.
Oh, and then shitting around. I didn't think they really did.
No, they did. And then because there was such a hoopla over Trump, Trump, it was like the name was leased, essentially, right? So they changed the name to another prestigious brand called the St. Regis. So it is now known. Yeah, it's now known as the St. Regis Hotel, which is a 5-star hotel. But I actually went in it when it was Trump Hotel because I wanted to get my girlfriend and I. We knew that it was on its last legs of being Trump for about, I don't know, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks, and we were downtown. So we walked in, and I said, I want to get one of those gold chocolates that has Trump on it. And I want to see if I can get it because they got to have some that they're packing away now that they're doing like the switch. So I go in and I meet the people at the desk, and they took me on this tour of the building. And I went up to like the first floor or whatever, and went to the window, and it's gorgeous views and everything. And I was like, okay, well, before I go, I appreciate it. Before I go, do you not have any one of those gold? And they're like, no, we don't have any. I was like, damn. I was like, I wanted one of those gold Trump chocolate kind of things. That would have been hilarious. It's great. Okay? Hilarious. Amazing.
Fake
it would have
news.
been great. Yeah. It would have been fun. Fuck you.
Your Trump is on point, man. It really is. It's one of the. I mean, there's a lot of people who do go, but you do a solid Trump. No, you do.
It's a caricature of Trump. It's a cartoon version of Trump, right?
Yeah.
It's not hard to go, it's all right. It's just the way it is. Okay? It's fine. Just don't worry about it. It's okay. It's fantastic. I'm the best. It's amazing. Okay?
You should do we should do a whole show one night, and that's all you do. You just respond in Trump's voice.
It's unbelievable. It's all right. It's the way it is.
Oh man.
No, it's not an actual obviously it's the cartoon version of Trump.
It's a very extreme cartoon version of Trump.
Yeah. It's a character. It's what it is, okay?
Yeah.
Fake news. Melania.
Boston Kennedy. Biodome, best movie. Biodome, isn't that with Pauly Shore, right? Isn't that?
Sorry, I just want to finish by saying, Michelle, again, it all depends on your budget. Toronto has a lot of, budget-friendly hotels as well. There's a Holiday Inn downtown. I think there's a Days Inn as well. And it all depends on your budget. What one I would recommend, I don't know. I mean, it depends on how much you want to spend. If you want to go ritzy and you're like, nah, I got some cash to blow, I'm going to go ritzy, then you can't go wrong with the St. Regis or the Ritz Carlton, right? They're really well-known names, so.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of hotels right downtown. Let me see. No, that's enough. It's addictive. Fuck, that voice is
addictive to do it. Yeah, it is.
Dave, Tony, do you guys enjoy? Do you guys enjoy going to see movies at the drive-ins?
Oh man, when they were around, yeah, they were. That was a fun night, fun date night. When you don't appreciate it. I mean, yeah, it's fun as a kid, but I remember as a kid I could barely make it through the movies, and I'd be sleeping in the back seat. But as an adult, it's a lot of fun when you're there with your girl. But man, they're so hard to find now. They really are.
Thanks for the super chat, buddy. I appreciate it. I haven't been to the drive-in in years.
Yeah.
The last time I went was actually I remember this. It was 2012. My girlfriend and I had been dating for just over a year, so still things were new, and so we went to the drive-in. There's a drive-in not too far away from me here, and it's still there. And we went there and we saw Avengers.
That's cool. You guys got a drive-in there.
Yeah, we saw Avengers, and then we watched Kristen Stewart in Snow White and the Huntsman.
Oh, that's cool. So you guys they did the double feature too. That's cool that they did that. Now, did they do the cartoon things at the beginning?
I can't remember. Can't remember. Not too sure. Super chat from Frank Riker. Thank you, Frank. Appreciate it. What piece of memorabilia in your guys' collection is not for sale ever? Not
Everything.
For sale ever?
I would never sell anything that's back there. Or anything in my office.
Yeah,
no, that's new.
Yeah, pretty much. The masks, probably not. I mean, unless for some reason I suddenly become destitute.
Yeah, for something like if I'm like 95 and it's like, okay, time to get rid of this stuff, and then maybe I might, give it to my nephew or something or whatever.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay. That's right.
Okay. Joseph Amato, super chat. Dave, what's your biggest Halloween 5 or general Halloween nitpick?
My biggest Halloween 5 or general Halloween nitpick. Well, my general Halloween nitpick is the incompetence of the entire series.
After 4, yes.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. My biggest Halloween 5 nitpick would be the movies I just don't understand the creative decisions allowed. I just think to be able to throw in my biggest Halloween 5 nitpick would be the implementation of the Man in Black without a clear-cut idea of who the hell he was.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe there's a quote, I'm paraphrasing, but the quote from the director of that movie was, the people doing Halloween 6 will figure it out.
Which is so stupid.
It's just so dumb. I mean,
That's a Ryan Johnson answer.
It's to throw that in there because you needed some sort of mystery in your movie. You needed some oomph in your movie. It's incompetence. It's just sheer incompetence. And as much as I love Mustafa Akkad, people have to remember, and I'm not knocking Malik Akkad or Mustafa. If it wasn't for him, there wouldn't be I wouldn't say there wouldn't be a Halloween. Who knows? Maybe Irwin Yablans would have found
somebody else, sure,
investor. But it's all we got to go on. If it wasn't for him, there wouldn't be Halloween. But he wasn't a horror guy. He wasn't somebody that, he wasn't, it wasn't, I don't know if he made the best decisions, and because he's the financer.
Halloween 5 goes into production and they don't even have a completed script.
Well, no. And part 4 was written in like 10 days.
Well, and he did a good job though. I will say that.
Well, yes, but the fact that they left it that long, they were having that many issues with it. I just don't know if Mustafa Akkad was the best guy for the job. I mean, let's not forget, Mustafa Akkad has experience, but he wasn't an elite Hollywood producer. He wasn't somebody that had a plethora of films under his belt that were huge. He had, he had money.
Arabia, right?
Yeah, he had money. He was successful. Absolutely 100%. Not taking anything away from him. But he was an odd choice to produce a horror film.
Sure.
And I understand why they did it, but he also is on record of not understanding a lot about it. I don't understand this. What is this story? But I believe in John Carpenter, and if he's going, well, okay, then you go ahead. I mean,
pretty much what he almost said verbatim.
Exactly. So I don't know if the Akkad. Sorry, I wanted to say Malik. I don't know if the Akkad family was necessarily the best,
it's
people
possibly
for
the reason
the franchise.
Why the franchise ended up going where it went, because they didn't understand it.
Because there was so many stuff, Michael Myers was stopped when we get to Halloween 22, or he'll die when it's just like, Jesus H Christ, I mean, it's like, and I'm not knocking him. Talented, professional, knows the business, made money, right? Hey, gotta give credit where credit is due.
What happened to him and his daughter?
Oh, awful, awful what happened to him and his daughter in 2005. They were killed in 2005. We also lost Deborah Hill that year as well.
Same year, yep.
So that was hard. But I don't know if it was best long term, because once Carpenter and Hill gave the rights away and it became all Akkad, I don't know. I mean, that's where things sort of, it's tricky to say. But what was the question? Why did I get into
the nitpick? What would Halloween 5?
Right. I think it's just by and large the nitpick. Although he says nitpick, and nitpick is something that isn't a big deal. So incompetence is a big deal. A nitpick to Halloween 5.
Man, I don't even know where to begin on that list.
It's hard to say, because even the Man in Black's not a nitpick. That's a big deal. That's hard, man. I'd have to continue to think on that.
Killing Rachel off in the first 10 minutes made no sense when it should have been her sacrificing herself, not Tina like that. Literally, that creative decision still, like,
right.
You look at like the setup in Halloween 4, look at everything Jamie and Rachel go through, and this is how Rachel's going to meet her demise. And, we're going to force this new character on you that you know nothing about. And she's going to play the older sister role now for Jamie, which Jamie ultimately is almost more or less a footnote. And here you have this great performance from Daniel Harris in Halloween 4. And because of the incompetence and the fact that they didn't have a completed script, that is why she's muted halfway through the fucking movie. They just took the lazy approach and like, we're just going to fucking mute her, because Michael can't talk, so she can't talk, and it was just, that was a dumb creative decision, killing Rachel the way they did and not letting Rachel be the one to sacrifice. Myers' house, like, okay, what the fuck? No one's lived in it. Clearly we see that in Halloween 2. It's an abandoned house, and it's still the same house, though. Now all of a sudden it looks like this gothic fucking Transylvanian shit. Like, what the fuck? Like,
it's so bad. That house,
that would be the most cringiest moment in the Halloween series.
It is the worst fucking. I don't. That isn't. And again, the director liked the house. I want to go with that. It's incompetence. No one is. Listen. The house in Halloween 6, I've said this a lot. The house in Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers, doesn't look anything like the Myers house. No. But it looks more like the Myers house than the house in Halloween 5. I look at the house in Halloween 6 and I go, okay, well, clearly that's not the Myers house, but I buy it. I look at this and I go,
family came in and moved in. They made some changes to it.
Sure, exactly. I'm just like, okay, all right, I'll buy it. You tell me in Salt Lake City, where they shot part 5, there wasn't some house that you could look at, a little, wartime home or something that sort of had the basic kind of idea and go, yeah, you use this ethereal, gothic looking, it's incompetence. It's sheer incompetence and no respect for the mythology or anything or continuity or anything. It's just, it's a shit show. It's a fucking piece of shit.
The reason why they didn't incorporate Myers' house in Halloween 4 is because they didn't have access to what ultimately now is like a doctor's house or whatever it is.
It's an insurance or something like that.
Yeah, so they didn't have access, so they didn't want to confuse people, so they left the house out of the equation in Halloween 4, which is a smart thing to fucking do. If you ain't got access to it, you don't need to show it. To try to force the fans to go, wait, okay, so this is the Myers house now that's been abandoned and somehow magically morphed itself into this fucking whatever.
And it's the fucking contrast. It's like, it's not like, come on. I mean, imagine in Elm Street, if that happened in Elm Street.
Oh my God.
Imagine that.
Changes the whole makeup of the franchise.
You would not put up with it.
Nope.
Fans would not put up with it. You wouldn't put up with it.
That house is synonymous as Freddy is to the franchise. I mean, It really is. You don't have that house. You really don't have that house is such a critical factor, just like Freddy is. I mean, I know that sounds like extreme to say, but like Dave said, take that house out of the equation now, and it changes the whole makeup of the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise because they use that house so much throughout the whole franchise.
I agree. Yep. Robert Thidoff, between Jaws, Creed, and Halloween 2018. Well, that's quite a contrast there. Which would you prefer to have? Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, I thought you were going to say which one do you like. Which would you prefer to have a sequel between Jaws, Creed, and Halloween 2018? I will tell you, I would prefer Jaws to have a sequel, but this is my asterisk beside that. I still don't think that they have mastered CGI sharks. And there's no doubt that they would want to go CGI in terms of sharks. But it's got to be a grounded, it's got to be on the, look, you're not necessarily going to surpass it, but don't make it a bunch of teens or a teen horror movie with a shark. Make it a legit fucking serious, make it maybe an alternate Jaws 3, because I think Jaws 2 is good enough that you can keep it in the canon. And if you make an alternate Jaws,
I've said that before. Yeah.
Yeah. Make an alternate Jaws 3, but make it a serious drama thriller, which like the original Jaws was, right? There's a lot of character development. Really utilize that. And maybe we are following Michael Brody now, and maybe he's in his 50s now, or something to that effect, or whatever it is, and maybe there's something that I think you could do it, but if you're gonna do, but you can't do it like you can't do it spoofy like The Meg, and you can't do it where you're trying to sell like a teen horror movie or Deep Blue Sea or The Shallows, or no, it's gotta be a legit balls to the wall, full on suspense drama, like that's taking itself very seriously. And if that was the approach, you would have piqued my interest. If I read a synopsis where it was like a bunch of college kids are stranded on a boat, you've lost me. You've totally lost me. Creed does not need a sequel. There does not need another sequel to Creed. Creed is done. If they wanted to make Creed a series, they peaked far too soon in Creed 2, because there's no need for Creed to go on now. Creed avenging his father's death, for all intents and purposes. That bookends it. That bookends it. That's it. That is it. There are people saying, well, maybe he could fight, Clubber Lang's son. Why would he fight Clubber Lang's son? There's no need for him. He has no relation to Clubber Lang. There's no reason for him to fight Clubber Lang's son. There's no reason. That was Rocky's story. There was a reason. Well, I mean, there really wasn't a reason to. I mean, really, if he wanted to really get technical, he should have been fighting, Ivan in the ring, because it was Ivan that killed his father. But I understand, of course, why they did that. But so it bookends it. If they wanted Creed to be a 4 or 5, series films, you peaked too soon. I mean, there it is, the end of Creed 2, avenging his father's death, Rocky going home to his son. There he is. The very last shot is, Adonis and his wife and their child at the gravesite of Creed. Boom. Yes. That's it. It brings it all home. Going on in the series would feel like it's a movie that should have ended 20 minutes ago. There's no need to extend Creed. Creed is done. It was a nice little experiment that worked, and you got a sequel out of it. Cool. But his story is done. And I don't want to see Rocky. His story, to me, ended in Rocky Balboa. Yeah. That was the perfect ending, because it was always about Rocky and Adrian. It was always Adrian and Rocky and Adrian. And at the end of Rocky Balboa, he says, yo, Adrian, we did it. Right? And she's dead, and he's saying it to, her gravestone, and then he gets up, kisses the roses, or, the stone or whatever, walks off, goes like this, and then fades into some sort of light, and that's it. Boom! Beautiful! It was always about them. That was it. And then they did Creed, and it was like, wow, okay, you actually kind of got something here. But the end of Creed 2, him going home to his son, it's like, okay, all right, not needed, completely unnecessary, but you don't need it. It's done, and Creed's done. I'm sorry. If you wanted a series out of Creed, you should have left the avenging his death to like part 4 or something, because you peaked. You peaked. So that's how I feel about that. And Halloween 2018 doesn't need a sequel.
My answer to that is going to catch you guys off guard, because it's none of the above. It's actually something we're working on right now for a fan film. The Friday the 13th photos that I've been sharing on Instagram with Jason in the potato sack The photographs that I've been taking are actually, what we're doing is we're using them as like storyboarding. We're basically putting together like how we want to do the scenes and shit like that. So we're
I'm excited. I'm excited.
We're picking up from where Halloween, Friday the 13th part 2 ends, and we're still going to keep Jason in the potato sack. It's as if like the hockey mask Jason never happened, because that's been my personal favorite adaptation of Jason. So me and my buddy Devin were like, well, why don't we just do something like a fan thing? I'm like, all right, well, I'll get access to the campgrounds and I'll start taking shots of like locations of utilizing that campground as our Crystal Lake. And, we'll just start so like the photo that I shared tonight is actually, I got my guy doing a scene like he's stalking the campground. So it's a really cool photo. You guys
very cool. I can't wait to see it
in a little while here. And so we're just going to do a fan film of some sorts. I don't know what the production budget's going to be. I don't know how long it's going to be, but it's going to pick up from where 2 left off, but keeping Jason in that same form with the potato sack.
Nice. So, I'm looking forward to seeing this. Cool. Well, if you need any voiceover, you just let me know.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let me see here. We'll go to 10:15. We'll go to 10:15 because we started
we're giving
late
you guys
tonight.
a little extra time tonight.
We started at 7:30, so we'll go to 10:15. Let's hear. See, we get some super chats. Frank Riker says, "What unfortunate celebrity death hit you the hardest?" It's a good question. I would say that Robin Williams surprised me.
I'm still stunned by Luke Perry. I've said this several times. Perry's death, because he's so young, and I've said this before. I mean, he's the guy. He's the teen idol that's on my sister's wall. He's not supposed to be dying at 52 years old of a stroke. That's true. That to me is just because he's young, and we sort of grew up with him as the 90s, early 90s, and like that just like it's like wow, like when you're at this side of life, it's I mean, yes, it's going to be sad when you lose Harrison Ford and John Carpenter and guys like that. But, these are guys that are about to be 80, like Clint Eastwood's got to be pushing 90 now. So it's like when they pass, you're like, they lived a good life, a long life. They did a lot. When Perry died at 52, it's like, man, and I'm 40 now, realizing like, fuck, that's only 12 years from now. I ain't ready to check out yet.
Yeah, exactly.
You realize how young it is.
I hear you. I hear you. So, Tommy Gibbons, thanks for the super chat. Tommy says, thoughts on Candyman? Well, we talked about that a bit earlier. I haven't seen Candyman in a number of years. So I remember liking the first one. The Farewell to the Flesh was the second one, I believe.
I think you're right.
I can't remember if I liked that one or not. I'd have to brush up on my Candyman. Sorry, Tommy. It's been a while since I've seen them.
Same. James Galaxa, I can't pronounce your name, bro, but he's asked us a couple times. Favorite scene in Halloween 2018.
Favorite scene in Halloween 2018. Favorite scene.
This is just going to prove Dave doesn't like the film after all.
No, I would probably say my favorite scene in the entire movie is probably the moment is bus crash scene. Because I think the bus crash scene when the kid gets out of the car and starts looking around, that was undoubtedly, I remember thinking this when I was watching it in the theater for the very first time, because as most of you, most of you know, but some of you may not. I don't know who's new in here and who's not. I saw it at the world premiere in Toronto and at TIFF. And I remember when this scene popped up, I remember thinking, oh, okay, now this feels moody. This feels atmospheric. There was no, music. It was just the music from the truck radio. The dad gets out, wait here. He doesn't return. The kid gets out with a shotgun, trying to look around. It was just very unsettling. It was very creepy. It was like, oh shit just got real. We've been waiting 40 fucking years to see, however long we wait. It was cool. It was probably, even though it only had Myers briefly when he sits up in the back and kills the kid, I generally thought it was frightening. And the line when the cop is in the field and the kid is poking the cop with his gun and he lifts his head and he's like, run! That was genuinely, I bought that. I bought that was like, holy shit, like how bad, what the fuck just happened here? And how bad is it that this cop is just saying, run, like get the fuck out of here? Like from what? From who? What happened? What's going on? Like that whole scene was, it was well done. I mean, it was, again, it's modern and it's a modern horror film, but I remember thinking to myself, I like that scene. That was all right. That was pretty good. That was genuinely creepy. There was some creepy sort of moments there. And unfortunately, a lot of the Myers stuff, not so much, but there are some good scenes, with Myers. There's some all right scenes with him too. Yeah, there are.
You're not gonna like my answer.
Here we go.
No, I like the opening credits. There you go.
Oh, all right. There you go.
I did. I thought that was a real slick thing that they did with the opening credits and the reverse pumpkin. I thought that was very clever, very creative, and especially using the OG pumpkin. I thought that was cool.
Cool. Very cool. Super chat from Anthony T. Thanks, Anthony. Says Open Water was a great shark movie, and they did not even have a main shock. If you have not seen it, but no, you're absolutely right. Open Water was, I believe, 2004 or 5, and I remember renting it from the video store way back in the day, and I love that movie. The first one. They've done sequels. I don't know what they're like, but if you've never seen Open Water, it is just these, and I believe it's based on a true story, if I'm not mistaken. And if you guys have not seen Open Water, now there's a movie with a sense of realism. There's a movie that feels legit, and the acting is great. Watch the first Open Water. That's a good movie. I agree.
Michael Myers, our buddy Michael Myers. Does Back to the Future need a sequel?
No, it does not.
Nope.
It doesn't need a remake, doesn't need a sequel.
Reboot it, don't do nothing to it, leave it the fuck alone.
But what they're doing, though, under the guidance and approval of Robert Zemeckis, is they are doing Back to the Future, the play, the musical.
Oh, that's different. Yeah, have fun with that.
I am pumped. I am pumped for that, because if that shit comes to Toronto, I'm going to be fucking, but that is, now I think it's just the first Back to the Future. Maybe they'll incorporate some of the, I don't know. But the first Back to the Future, you can watch as its own film. Like it has a beginning, middle, and an end. And, I know there's the cliffhanger, like, Marty, we've got to go back to the future. I mean, I understand all that. But the first movie does have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And I would imagine, I think the musical is going to be sort of about that, but I'm just like, when I think of the spectacle and the music from Huey Lewis and the News and Alan Silvestri and just the whole sort of, I'll be in the seats fucking clapping and cheering, and like that definitely lends itself to a musical. So they are doing that, but a movie, it's done. It's been told.
I can't find the guy's name, and I meant to. I've been scrolling here looking, but he asked us who is our favorite female villain, and I can't find your name, man. And I'm sorry, I've been scrolling here, but Harley Quinn, I got her tattooed on me right there, her logo.
There you go, female villain. There are not too many female villains in the big picture. So
I mean, if we're counting comic books, because I'm counting comic books. I didn't think you were counting horror.
I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, I could say Pamela Voorhees, but that's not really true. That's just because I can't think of anybody else off the top of my head for some reason. Like I said, I mean, there are female villains out there, but in the big picture, obviously, they're predominantly men. So, I don't know. That's interesting. Okay, one more minute. We'll take a couple more questions here. A couple more questions, then we will call it a night on this fall. This has been a good episode.
Yeah, movie chat and more. Best Rocky fight. You got to go with the original and the follow-up with Apollo. Those two are probably my favorites.
My favorite Rocky movie is Rocky 4. But that's not the best Rocky movie. That is, it's like the Indiana Jones thing, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, Rocky 4 is just like
80s. It is the 80s to a T.
And it is like, it's all about redemption and the stakes and revenge. And
great.
It's like the cartoon kind of rock, but it's fun to watch. And Stallone is fucking chiseled to the nines.
He's got like negative 5% body fat.
It's like negative 100. It's like unbelievable. He's like fucking, it's unbelievable. But the best Rocky movie is the first
one. Really seriously hurt him? Like he almost died.
Yes,
right?
he did.
Real, almost died by making this.
Because Stallone was asking him to actually hit him,
right? And then he gets it's like something like it shifted his heart or something like that.
Yeah, he had to go to the hospital for a week or something like that, and had to recover. It was fucking insane. But agree.
The Rocky 4 training, I got to agree, it's my favorite. Hearts on Fire, I run to that shit. Trust me, That's in the
I have too.
playlist.
Yes, same with me. Same with me. Do you know what movie is not in what song is not in Rocky IV that everybody thinks is in Rocky IV?
Which one?
I believe it's the Final Countdown. It's the final countdown.
Thinks it, but it's not. It's something else. It's something. Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody thinks that's in Rocky IV. I did for a long time, and I was like, "It's not. It's not. It's a song that plays during the montage when he's driving." It's got a similar melody. There's certain cues that sound similar. So if there was ever a Mandela effect, which obviously doesn't really exist, but if there ever is one, that's a good one. That's not in there. But yeah, no, my favorite fight is
about.
My favorite fight is. No, I'm not talking about that one.
Not this one.
That is it. I have that in my.
I don't want you to get hit for copyright strike. That's why I played it through my phone. So.
Yeah, I have that on my.
That's the training montage. From
It's
Rocky
the train.
IV.
Yes, it's an awesome training montage. But I'm talking about the one that plays when he's driving the car and Apollo Creed's been dead and there's like the.
Flashbacks. No easy way out.
Yeah, I think.
That's no easy way out.
Yeah. I think
no easy way out.
Yeah. I think that's the one that they get mixed up. I don't know, but anyway, yeah. The Final Countdown is actually not in Rocky IV. A lot of people think it is. No, my favorite Rocky fight would probably be. I don't know. I mean, the one with Mr. T is always good too. They're all fucking good, really. At the end of the day, they're different, but
Tommy Gunn street fight, the most.
That's fuck off.
Unbelievable street fight in the history of street fights.
That's fucking garbage. What a garbage
that
movie.
Street fight would have ended like 30 seconds in if they were really hitting each other like that.
Yeah, I know. I thought that movie was fucking garbage. Anyways, okay, let's did we miss any super chats? No, we did not. Okay, so that's gonna do it for Tony and I on episode 27 of Two Dudes and Some Bullshit. Thank you to each and every one of you for joining us again here on this Sunday evening, and thank you for those who contributed and helped support the channel via super chats. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much. It does not go. Sorry?
Do Trump again. Do it as you're doing the Trump voice.
Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate it. It's great, okay? I love it. I say it. I've been told I have to say this. I've been told I have to say it. But I don't really care. I don't really care about it.
Is it fake?
It's fake. I don't really care about your super chats. They're all fake anyway. I have millions. I have millions of dollars. And all you're giving me are pennies.
Oh, I thought you were going to go rock really on me for a minute. I have millions and millions.
I have millions and millions. No, so if you smell
do that in Trump voice.
If you
that ain't funny. Doing the rock as Trump. That's shit.
I will work on it. I'll work on it. Thanks everybody. We really appreciate it. We'll be back next week. I'll let you guys know what the show is next week, but
I think you guys are going to like it because I think I know what we're doing.
Yes, exactly. So in the meantime, hey, if you're not following Tony on Instagram right now, his link is in the description, as well as links to all my stuff as well. So in the meantime and in between time, Tony and I will talk to you guys soon. Cheers.
Drink a beer. What?
What? Fuck, that got annoying after a while. I got to admit. I was like, fuck, I would have told the audience to shut the fuck up. Anyways.